Welcome back to another edition of Ball Don't Lie, right here on 104.9 The Horn. Oh, we got the full Monty and a doozy for you. We'll get into the NBA Finals, Game 5. We'll review it, but more. We'll talk about Jokic and the Denver Nuggets, your NBA champion. We'll break it all down from every angle. We'll talk about that here in the first segment. Next segment, we'll get into something that's not so good. Not so, it's not so pleasurable to discuss, and we'll break it all down. Texas baseball falling short to Stanford in a gut-wrenching, heartbreaking fashion, something that I don't think I've ever seen, actually, in college baseball. So we'll get into that. We'll also get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. Top of the 4 o'clock, J.J. Watt will be inducted into the Texans Ring of Honor. We'll discuss that. Also, there may be some holdouts coming up already in the NFL offseason leading up until training camp. We'll discuss that and how that impacts the Dallas Cowboys and some other teams, and also mini camps going on with the Houston Texans and other teams. We'll get to some mini camp updates from the NFL. All of that and more. Before we do, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He was a second-round pick for the Montreal Expos, but a first-round pick for the Austin Radio Network. He originally committed to the University of Texas, but decided to forego the 40 acres and chase his dream in the cheese. Pimping ain't easy, but for this man, it's a breeze. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Mike Hardball Harge. How you doing, man?
Say it ain't so, Joe. Say it ain't so.
Yeah, that was tough, man.
It is a very, very tough way to end a baseball season and, to all accounts, a great game. The battles that were being won in between each pitch, everything that happens, it was very, very unfortunate situation, but we'll definitely get into it. And in the Hard Knocks life, I will do my dedication to Texas baseball.
I like that.
For this season, because there's a lot to unpack when you look at it. But nevertheless, man, I hate that.
I know, it is. It's hard. It's cringeworthy.
Yeah, it's definitely
It's actually kind of cringeworthy to talk about, but we'll get into it.
We definitely will get into it. But let me talk about my man that sits across from me. He hails from H-Town with the Get Down. He's a lifetime Longhorn and a proud card-carrying member of DBU. Legendary lifetime and now College Football Hall of Fame Longhorn Derek Johnson said he was the best cover corner he had ever seen. He's a former NFL DB that still has that passion for film study, but he's not a fan of white condiments. But, of course, he is a fan of you, the listeners. He is my man and yours, Rod Bateman.
I appreciate that intro. As always, let's not waste any time introducing the real MVP, one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. He's got a hustler spirit, period. We don't know what he's paid. We're pretty damn sure that he's underpaid. It's Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick?
Oh, just trying to figure out what I'm going to watch for the next several months.
So, yeah, Patrick, double heartbreak for him. Heartbreak over the Texas baseball team and the manner in which they lost versus Stanford, but also the NBA season is over. He's happy about being right, so is Harge about their gentleman's sweep prediction on the NBA Finals, but my man Patrick is a hardcore NBA fan, so we can recommend some entertainment for you.
I can't wait for Summer League.
I was going to say, because my man does not like movies.
That's movies. So, so of course, Summer League. You got the draft in, a week and a half?
A week from Thursday.
Yeah, so a little over a week. Got the draft, and you'll celebrate that for like a month. Yep. That's gonna be that's a month-long celebration for Spurs fans after Wendy comes to town.
Well, I'm sure we're gonna make some other great draft picks as well.
Yes, it's the Spurs. I mean, but the one that'll be the most talked about will be Wendy, who I'm sure I wouldn't doubt if he gets to town before they even draft. I wouldn't doubt if there's like rumors that he's already.
I wouldn't surprise me if he was coming to Texas before he went to Chicago next week.
Yeah,
because the draft's in Chicago, so that will be
where
everyone will be there because it's got to do with the walk across and shake hands with Adam Silver and do all that too.
Must be nice.
We got to figure out what his fit's going to be. Because that's always
something, especially in NBA. I mean, I want to see he's a fashionista.
Yeah.
So something strikes me he's gonna go classy with it. You're not gonna go too crazy.
Not go too crazy.
But anyway, we'll get into the NBA, the last of the NBA games for the 2023 season, because now the Denver Nuggets, the coronation happened last night, and actually it did not They did not cover the spread like I thought. I thought they would cover the number, which was, 8.5, I believe, or might have climbed to 9. The fight from the Miami Heat kept it close even in the fourth quarter, but the Denver Nuggets were able to pull it out on their home court. So we'll get into that and dive into it and talk about what the Denver Nuggets now have in their kind of their championship window and how long this championship window can last for the Denver Nuggets. You can also be a part of the show. You're the most important part of the heartbeat of it. 512-337-3776. You also can use the Twitterverse. Harge is at Hardball Harge in the Twitterverse. Patrick Davis at It's Patrick Davis. I'm at Rod Babers in the Twitterverse. All right, gentlemen, let's start with it and get your thoughts on this really just a great run overall. I think now we can talk about the run instead of just talking about Game 5. We can get into the details of Game 5 too. But this run by the Denver Nuggets in the playoffs is historic for a lot of different reasons. We'll get into the individual accolades of one Nikola Jokic, who was given the MVP award, the Finals MVP award as well.
I am shocked by that.
Yes. But 94-89 win for Denver, and it ended up being kind of a rock fight.
It did.
It wasn't. It expected it to be higher scoring than that. It's rare you get an NBA game that doesn't get either one of the teams in triple digits. That's what happened. So it ended up being a game that I thought Miami, just in the first half, and I know the first half is not really anything you can, bank on because these games were won in the fourth quarter. But the Heat forced 10 turnovers in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
And the Denver Nuggets were horrible from three-point range. They actually shot 1 of 15 from three-point range in the first half. That was the worst three-point percentage in a half in finals history, in any half, three-point percentage. I think it was a little over 7%, 6.7%, something like that. It was really ugly. And the Heat led 51-44, and that was even without Jimmy Butler having, a good game.
Right.
Jimmy was still off. And Jamal Murray at that point had more turnovers than field goals. So that was hope for Miami, at least in the first half. And even into the third quarter, I mean, you're talking about a 71-70 lead for Miami entering the fourth quarter. And Denver found a way to win it in the fourth quarter, outscored, I believe, 24-18 in the fourth quarter. And they smelled it. They knew it was close. If it would have gone to a sixth game, Denver could have won it then. Hell, Denver could have won it in 7, whatever. But I love the championship DNA, the championship pedigree they showed to win an ugly game.
Oh, for sure.
Sometimes you got to go just win it ugly. That was an ugly win, and they got it.
And we talked about it before we left yesterday. We were saying that the over-under, I would take the under total points, and I would also take the Miami Heat to cover the 9.5. I just thought that was what it was going to be. Not necessarily thinking it was going to be that bad of a rock fight, but I just knew both teams were going to go out there and give everything that they had. Miami, they didn't have any room for failure. They had to go out there and play hard, so we knew that was going to happen. In Denver, when you know that you have a closeout situation, sometimes you press. Sometimes you don't make things as easy as it once was with the ball movement. They were too excited. They were too amped up. Call it whatever you want. But at the end of the day, when you have that much star power, when I say star power, I'm talking about Jamal Murray and you have Nikola Jokic, it's tough to beat them when you just have Jimmy and everybody else. We've been talking about it the entire time. These guys have battled, but at the end of it, they were running out of gas. They were a gassed basketball team. When you see guys start falling short of their shots, being very indecisive, you're mentally exhausted. And so for them to go out there and do what they did, shout out to Spoelstra and being able to build up this team of the land of misfit toys, because we were making that underdog story, the undrafted. This is who they are. They're junkyard dogs. But at the end of the day, when you got a superstar who still hasn't been an all-star yet, in Murray, and of course you got the MVP in the Joker, and Mike Malone, man. Mike Malone pushing all the right buttons, man. Excuse me, Michael. He's a champ now. He could be Mike. He could be Mike now.
Hold on, didn't he want to be called Michael?
Yeah, he wanted to be called Michael. Yeah.
Now you got to call him Michael.
You got to call him Michael. He did his job, and it was so cool to watch the city of Denver, the Kroenke family, and we'll get into them too, of what they've been able to do. But for them to win that What an amazing run by the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, no, it is. It's no question. And Jokic now, the conversation changes, the narrative shifts.
Mm-hmm.
He can be in the conversation of the all-time greats, the GOATs in NBA history. And the truth is, when you start going through the numbers, and we will a little bit later on, he could stop right now, and he would be in that. He would already be in that rarefied air with the greatest players in NBA history. Now that he's put a ring on it officially. He's 28 years old, but his resume already puts him as one of the top 20 players of all time.
Yeah,
that's crazy to think that it automatically shifts with a ring. But that's how much prodigious clout you get once you put a ring on it, right, Pat?
Well, and when you put a ring as Finals MVP, as the man, as a guy who everybody says is the best player in the league, it just puts it on that special, like, oh no, you took a team to the finals, you dominated in the playoff run, you get a gentleman's sweep in the finals, and this was Jamal Murray did a lot, the team did a lot, Michael Malone's a great coach, but without Jokic, this is a playing team at best.
Agreed.
And so when you look at it that way, it's just you get that extra special boost of, oh, there's not that many players in league history that are able to take a group of good players and one of their star who is known not to be the most consistent, but he's a good player, and dominate a playoffs.
You're right.
Dominate a playoffs.
To that point, to add to Patrick's point, he led all players in the NBA playoffs in points, rebounds, and assists. He's the first player in NBA history to do that in a playoff run. So that alone just sounds like you would think, like, oh man, somebody had to have done that at one point, but nobody has the versatility of a skill set
exactly.
like Jokic. That's
the person I would think
alone
would be Magic Johnson. That would have been the only person
Magic
that I would have been.
Magic is probably there are a couple of them. Yeah,
right.
Probably you think, okay, they should have sniffed it. Magic is probably the most. I'm with you. That's probably the most likely. Surprised that it didn't happen. LeBron could have.
Right, LeBron would have been in that category as well.
Yeah, but a lot of those guys don't get as many triple doubles as you think they do.
Right,
because a triple double player like Russell Westbrook is not usually going to have a prodigious in playoff run. It's a different style of basketball. So to be able to be a triple double person and actually have the results that you want to have that's why it's so special, is because he's basically able to continually find the right passes for the assists, but he's not making, like so many guys that have a lot of assists have a lot of missed shots off of passes too, and they just get assists because they just throw 35 passes that are immediately shots, and they get 10 assists. They made 25 of them are missed shots. And Jokic is much more of, okay, I'm going to hit it, I'm going to get it to you. And then their percentage is a lot higher because he's not going for assist numbers as much. It's a weird thing, but his numbers, his assist numbers don't seem like they should be as high as they are.
And he probably could have more.
But he also throws a lot of assists too, which are great ones of him basically pulling a defender and the other defender, and him finding between two defenders a cutting player who can just lay it up or dunk it. And like that was Michael Porter Jr. His shot did not fall all those playoffs, but he had some big plays where he just started to get to the rim to just go, look, I got to make some sort of impact in this series.
Right.
I might as well try and get to the rim and get some points that way.
And it is. He is. And, Spoelstra had a, quote about him, too, that essentially he's almost unstoppable in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
There's no blueprint right now on how to stop Jokic. There will be. Give the NBA time, and they'll try to figure out some things.
They got a whole offseason now to look at film on what will make them better against him. You can't stop him completely, but you can impede his progress, so to speak, where he's just not being able to do whatever he wants at any time on the court.
Okay, so how about this? So now he's one of 13 players to win at least 2 regular season MVP awards and an NBA title, but he's one of 11 to win 2 regular season MVPs, at least 1 title, and a Finals MVP as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in, like I said, he's
rarefied
behind the velvet rope at this point, even among the greats.
He's getting facial recognition where he can walk in anywhere now.
And honestly, I don't know if he does. He probably should have more of
Right.
that. You know,
Right.
there is a Shohei Ohtani factor with him where he's the best player in the sport, and I don't know if you bring his name, if you name drop him in every conversation, does everybody know who he is, regardless of whether they're a sports fan or not?
They should.
They should.
They
but
should.
Everybody knows LeBron, whether they're a sports fan or not. Everybody, you know what I mean? Like
That's because LeBron
knows
is
Tom
controversial
Brady.
to some people,
Yeah.
right? So they're like, oh, that's LeBron. That's the guy that's over here, blah, blah, blah. But
Yeah.
now when you look at this guy, because he does not care.
I know
Like,
exactly,
yeah.
and that's part of it too. It's a
You
Mike
call him
Trout.
Mike Trout,
There's
yeah,
a
yeah.
Mike Trout factor here too, where he doesn't care that much, which is good. It's We'll get some sound, audio. It's funny because he's got a lot of dry humor and it's great. It's authentic. But yeah, when he doesn't want to attend the parade and be an ambassador,
He's like, what?
he wants to dominate the sport. It doesn't. It's not going to help him transcend from the sports page to the front page.
It goes back
Like-
to your point of wanting Jimmy. You want a Jimmy. Because
Yeah.
Jimmy's got
Yeah.
more of that charismatic information
Yes.
that is out there that you're going to be like, oh, man, look at Jimmy. He's wild. Joker's like, I want to go see my baby and I want to go see my horses.
That's it.
I
And
don't
I'm
have
gonna
any other-
dominate. Let me dominate this sport, but then I want to go home.
Exactly. ASAP.
Yes. So let me ask you guys this, just for the sake of conversation. What big man all time? Let's have a hypothetical thought experiment. What big man all time would you take ahead of Jokic now? Give me the one you gotta.
I mean,
give me the one. Like no, I take these are the big men I take ahead of Jokic.
I'm always take Kareem and I'm always take Shaq.
I always take Kareem. I always take Shaq. Okay, because think about what Kareem, how he set himself apart. Right, Kareem was the longevity was a big part. Longevity and productivity.
But for
That's
sure.
why he
For sure.
was the all-time lead scorer for so long. Just longevity, and he had a signature shot.
Yep.
A lot of things set him apart. For Shaq, man, Shaq, talk
Just
about charisma.
dominant.
Talk
And
about
a
charisma.
dominant
And
big man.
because brute force, we hadn't seen brute force. I mean, big men are big men.
No.
But even big men they had to. They had to admit that basically he could impose his will on them.
Everyone.
He was that much of a force of nature.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a few guys that have had rules made for them, and there's a few guys that have had basically you have to get people on your roster. You're like, we have to sacrifice a spot or two just for guys to go bump with Shaq. And
Right.
Kareem had that, Wilt had that, and we're gonna see if Jokic, if there's somebody else just goes, look, man, we can't run a small ball lineup all the time. We have to find somebody that can go in there and just do something to him to try and slow him down. But unlike Shaq, he can shoot threes, which kind of makes it a lot harder to find a guy because
The 3-point shot is kind of wild.
the shooting,
Yeah.
the dribbling.
Yeah.
Because Shaq basically, if he had the ball 10, 15 feet away from the basket, you're like, yeah, just double team and steal it. He will. It's a turnover 90% of the time. But
And
if he
the
gets
hackish-
within,
yeah.
if he's within 6,
they
7
create a
feet,
rule.
it's
The hack
over.
and Shaq,
Yeah.
Shaq factor is just big in his dominance, though, to show you how dominant he was. It does suck that
Yeah.
he couldn't make a free throw or get better at it. He
I
didn't
make
care
him
about
when I
that.
have
Which
to.
we
I
saw
make
last
them when I
night.
have to.
I mean, there was a
He
point
could have been
where
all-time lead scorer potentially.
there was a point where I felt they needed to go over to Kyle Lowry and be like, dude, we see what you're doing. Just stop. But they were basically running into Jokic and falling over at a point in the game, trying to get him fouled out, like trying to get him in foul trouble again.
Yeah.
So he got in foul trouble
Flop on
early.
him.
And 3 plays in a row, Kyle Lowry went into him, grabbed his arm, and fell over. And you were like, dude, this is the cheapest way to try and do this.
Yeah.
Hey,
And I get what you're trying
it's
to
a
do.
compliment.
But this is why people hate the NBA.
Yeah.
Is because you're just like, I'm just going to, like, I'm a bench player. I'm playing like 30 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and just come in and try and ruin the game.
But it just shows you how dominant Jokic is. Like, man, we're out of ideas.
And-
Right.
Go in there and just try to flop on him and get a foul. That's the strategy. That is the strategy. Go.
And what ended up happening is it backfired because they basically swallowed their whistles at that point because they were like, if Miami's going to start falling over at everything, we're not calling
Hey.
anything anymore, and we're just going to let it roll out.
All right, so how many? You said Hard. You said Shaq and Kareem for you.
Yep, for sure.
Those are your two you take
Yep.
ahead of them?
Yep.
I got to throw Wilt in there potentially. I ain't seen Wilt. I know.
Wilt's always in that weird category.
I
So
know.
Wilt,
Just 'cause-
statistically
So is
and
Bill Russell,
historically,
you know what I'm
Wilt-
saying?
Yeah, just historically, big man
Yeah.
Wilt is what's the standard
statistically
for so
and
long.
historically, he's in the discussion. I don't know if you put him in any other era that he is near that same productivity because he was an anomaly
know
of
it.
size.
And that's a discussion we have for almost every.
And there's
possible
been other
person.
guys closer to him than a Shaq, who there's been one of him, one of a kind.
That's one of Shaq.
Yeah.
But yeah,
he's one of one.
But if we're talking big men before Jokic, there's probably still 5 or 6. I mean, Tim's ahead of him, Akeem's ahead of him, Bill Russell's ahead of him, Shaq's ahead of him, Kareem's ahead of him, Wilt's probably ahead of him. Because all of these, remember, this is a 5-year career. And we can say, wow, he was really great. But where's Derrick Rose on your point guard list for his 2 years of dominance? And I know he didn't win a ring, but but he's not a top 75 player, even though he could have been said he was the best player in the league for 2 years. So I'm just saying,
MVP.
when we look back on
Give me another
Jokic's
example.
career, if he goes and he quits playing today, and he leaves, he's a top 30, 40 player in the NBA because he only did it for an amount of time. And part of what doing it is that longevity to be able to continue to do it. Now, I think he can for another 10 years, and he will go up that list. But as of right now, 5 years in, basically 4 of those being really dominant, 3 or 4 of those being really dominant, and a couple of underwhelming playoff runs. And that one, I can't put him above all-time legends this early in.
I'm not looking at it from that point of view, and that's a good point in terms of all-time resume and then their accolades and what they stacked up. That's a part of it. That gets you in the club. That gets you in the conversation. After that, I get into what sets them apart, and that's why I got into what set Kareem apart, right? His longevity, productivity, that was great for him. But with Jokic, the thing that in a league of X-Men, his X-Men ability is his versatility. I mean, the stat says it in itself, right? He led all players in the playoffs in points, rebounds, and assists. First player in NBA history to do so. One texter says the dream. Saying the dream would be, because the dream was more of a two-way player. Tim Duncan, more of a two-way player.
Yep.
Gave it to you on both ends of the floor. Not saying Jokic isn't, a liability or an embarrassment defensively, but he's not considered elite on both ends. Those guys at one point were considered elite on both ends of the floor. Could be all NBA first team and all defense first team. That's what, that could set them apart. So when I have a conversation, that's kind of what I'm looking at when I talk about the conversation of, who would I take above him? And this is not, right now, I think he is probably right outside the top 5. Like all-time big men. Like right outside. So whether it be 7, 6, wherever it is, he's right outside. Because you can have a real debate about all-time where he stands statistically. I did some deep dive and some rabbit hole, and I'll give it to you guys later. But I'm telling you, man, he's a generational talent, and he's just 28. As Patrick mentioned, and this is just the beginning of. So we're having this conversation now, hopefully at the beginning of his run. It could just be a 1-year run. It could just be a 1-year thing.
Well,
he's multiple MVP.
Yeah,
it's
he's
not
already
a run.
No, I'm talking about for the championships.
Okay.
I'm talking about the run for the championships.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about not for him, for the titles. Which we all know, the more rings you put on it, your goatness grows.
It grows.
The case for your goatness grows.
Yep.
So he can't just be a stat monger. They gotta be great, but you got to put the rings on.
No, and that's why Bill Russell gets in that conversation always, is because you go, the guy's got 11 rings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I get it's at a different time where they had a very stacked lineup and there was a lot of things going on. But when you say, "Oh no, this guy is the the middle piece of the biggest dynasty in sports," or at least the biggest dynasty in the NBA, in those Celtics runs and wins so many titles, it's just a different level because it's one of those things that no one else has ever been able to accomplish. And as amazing as it is, we can say there is another 2-time MVP with 1 title currently in the league. And Giannis.
Yeah.
So there is another guy that's there, and I think Jokic is better than Giannis, but there is another guy with that resume currently playing in the NBA.
Which is why I say it could just be a 1-year thing because right now the path for Giannis to get back seems like it's going to be a long one. Doesn't seem like he's got a sure thing. Now, the East is kind of wide open. But I don't know if you would consider them, they're guaranteed to win the East.
Murray has 2 more years on his contract, and Joker is in Denver through 26-27 season. So there is a possibility of this team being able to make a run. Now, the biggest question is when you have success, how do you bounce back from success, right? What is the ultimate goal? I think because of the way that he carries himself, I think he's going to be ready to grow back and defend the title just because of his nature. He doesn't. He wants to go to horse racing this weekend. He wants to get back. His focus is going to be totally different, and I firmly believe that Michael Malone is going to lead this team to another championship. So then we'll revisit it. I don't know if he'll be the MVP. I don't know if all of that's going to be true, but what I do know is this is a season of first. The first time that they had the best Western Conference record, the first time that they swept a team in the series, not this one, but before. First championship for 47 years. And let's not forget, this MVP, the first MVP that he's gotten, he was the 41st overall draft pick, and he was picked up during a Taco Bell commercial. Nobody even saw him get drafted.
Yeah.
That dude is amazing. I'm going to give him his flowers now. Now, it may only be a week, may only be a year, but that man deserves his flowers.
First player drafted outside the top 15 to win MVP and in the regular season and finals MVP.
Yeah.
That doesn't say those guys drafted outside the top 15 usually don't sniff those types of accolades.
600 points, 269 rebounds. Amazing. Amazing.
No, it's like I said, right now he's in a one ring club. To Patrick's point, Giannis is in that club. AD's in it. Yeah, the current guys.
Well, no, and I'll tell you this. I think they're
guys who got one ring.
Because Because I forgot that they won in the
guys
bubble.
who got one ring, ring. Superstars, who got stars who got one ring. And retired guys, Jerry West, Oscar, Big O, Dirk's in that category. KG's in that category.
Mm-hmm.
Moses Malone's in that category. Bob Pettit and Dr. J if you take out the ABA stuff.
I love Dr. J.
So those guys, like I said, those are we're talking about GOATs there.
Yeah.
But you separate and then you go into an even more rarefied category if you win two.
Yeah, and I mean this will be a telling offseason too of guys like Bruce Brown. If he gets a bigger contract coming out of it, and some of these other guys that are role players that end up getting contracts, that was a thing that helped the Spurs for years is, you get a good role player because you go, yeah, I can come there and then I'll, play 2 or 3 years and get a good contract out of it. So those 2 or 3 years may be tough because Pop's going to yell at me and I have to play a bunch of defense, but I'll go get paid after I get done with it. So if I'm right on that edge and I get to play with a guy like Bruce, like Tim Duncan or like Jokic, where he's going to be trying to find me. I'm playing with a superstar who's trying to find me at my best. He's trying to find me when I'm open. He's trying to find me when I'm cutting the basket. Those are things that, players are looking for when you're scouting good in the NBA, looking at free agents, and you have a guy that, hey, man, he wants 15 over here, but maybe we can get him for 8 or 9 because he wants to come here, and we'll get him on a 2-year deal, and he helps us open that window back up again.
Yeah, no, and hey, as long as you can compete for championships, guys will, play for a discount.
Yeah, and when you have a superstar who passes the ball well, it is a giant advantage when trying to get free agents versus a superstar where it's like, look, we're just going to throw it. We're going to throw it in the paint. And we're going to wait. Yeah. It's like, no, we're going to run an offense, and you're going to get your shots up.
Yeah, it really is amazing what the skill set of Jokic has done to really kind of transform that Denver Nuggets team. So now, people got to start watching the Denver Nuggets. I don't think people really were watching Denver Nuggets before this playoff run, and now people understand what all the talk, and what all of the hubbub is about when it comes to Nikola Jokic. All right, we'll come back to that conversation. We get into the other side. We'll go to this very disappointing, gut-wrenching, soul-crushing loss for Texas baseball to Stanford in the Super Regionals. My man Hardball Hall is going to break it all down for you right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Top of the charts Tuesday. That's when Patrick the Ideallionaire plays jams that reached the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. And, man, unfortunately, I thought he was going to play something a little bit more upbeat, like optimistic, because this song is, what's the song about originally?
I have no idea.
Okay, is it like it's a deep meaning or something? But I don't know. It's the mood it's setting for the discussion we're about to have about Texas baseball.
Man,
it's not putting me at ease
at all
on a top of the charts Tuesday. Texas baseball with a soul crushing, gut wrenching, heartbreaking, numbing, brutal, devastating.
Any adjective you want to put out there?
Whatever word you want to attach to it.
That means not good.
Loss.
Yeah.
To Stanford last night. And Harge, you play a lot of baseball. Have you ever lost a ball in the lights?
Absolutely.
How often does it happen?
It happens more than you think, especially at the twilight time. And that's exactly where it happened. And, we'll get into that in just a minute, but I want to give a shout out to this entire team, because if you think about it, they were down 3-0 in the second. They come back in the fourth and they get 3. Then the Stanford team, the Stanford Cardinal, come back and they get 3. And you're sitting there saying, come on, man, we just needed some opportunities here. Can they do it? And as time goes on, you start, we're losing outs here. And you battled all the way back. You get it tied. And for that to happen, and in a fashion in which it did, it is gut-wrenching in that situation, because you brought it up just a minute ago, Rod. I've been in that situation, and I was talking to a bunch of buddies of mine that played the game, and we've been on the field together, and we were talking about how the infielders are normally told before, hey, guys, the outfielders are telling the infielders, I can't see it. So if the ball goes up, go as hard as you can, no matter where it is.
Yeah.
Because if it goes above them lights, it's going to be difficult for us to see, because it's dusk now. And last weekend against Texas A&M, it happened multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And then it came back to get Texas this time. And there were so many different things that happened in there. But I wanted to say that, this team has been very, very fun to watch. They have battled. They are a team that we didn't give them big opportunities. I mean, we didn't give them a chance, really, at the beginning of the year. And I'll get into that in my Hard Knocks life. But the way that they went out there, the way that they battled, the way Lucas Gordon was like, all right, this is my bullpen day. Because remember, he did that earlier in the year, and everybody was losing their mind. When he pitched in a game, and then on his bullpen day, he ended up having to come back into a game, and they were like, why are they pitching Lucas Gordon? Those are the situations that he was building for. Because everything throughout the year, you have to see who's going to react in a certain way. And for him to come back out there, be as effective as he was, Tanner Witt, Zane Morehouse, everybody that went out there and battled through. But those guys, it was just a very, very unfortunate situation. As the ball goes up, I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm like, yeah, no, because I could see the way the angle was that nobody knew where the ball was. Nobody. And everybody keeps saying Dylan Campbell didn't see it. Eric Kennedy didn't see it either. If you look at the outfield, Jack O'Dowd on the infield was still on the infield, because if he didn't see it, he'd have been running out there. The only person who really saw the ball was Mitchell Daly. But I've been in a situation too, Rod, where I see it, I put my head down, and I start to look and see where everybody else is, and then I look back up. I can't see the ball.
Can't identify it.
You have to be able to – you have to be so dialed in at those times that even if you do see it, you lose it. Just like that.
Yeah, because you can see it off the bat and then still lose it.
And absolutely.
Once it gets so high, once it gets through the lights, you go, oh, I lost it.
Especially if you blink or if you look to see if somebody else is coming.
Yeah.
And then you try to go back up and find it. It's very, very difficult to be a part of that.
Yeah,
it's a hopeless feeling.
We also saw the entire Stanford bench lost the previous hit that was off the wall. They all lost that one and thought it was over the wall.
Thought it was a home run. Yeah,
that happened.
Yeah, they celebrated. That's why he threw his helmet off
10 minutes before the other one.
Yep.
Or took his helmet off, and they thought it should have been a penalty. And I know Longhorn fans said it should have been a penalty, but I get it. But still, It's I know it happens a lot. You just brought up that it happened to the Aggies too. As a matter of fact, we got some audio of Dylan Campbell talking about it and from his perspective, what happened in that unfortunate fly ball that the Texas Longhorns lost in the lights.
Honestly, I don't even know. I mean, like you saw, it was just Mother Nature. I mean, it was a twilight sky, and me and EK couldn't see the ball off the bat. So, I mean, that's just very fortunate on their end that it happened like that. I mean, I guess we just got to move forward, I guess. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it now. It's over.
So he couldn't see it off the bat. Yeah. And I guess if you don't see it off the bat, you got no shot.
You got no shot because, again, the only shot you have is looking at your infielders to bail you out. That's it, because that's what you're taught. I played outfield and I played infield. I played infield the majority of my professional career, even in Little League. You have to be in control of making sure, because you also know that it's getting to that twilight because you can't see. So everybody is all dialed in those situations, but once it gets above those cheap Little League lights that they had out there in Stanford, that is where the loss of the sight of the ball is. Listen, that was a great baseball game. We saw everything. I know everybody keeps complaining about the umpires. Umpire missed calls on both sides of the plate. Dylan Campbell, you could have said he was struck out 3 times. The umpire didn't call him out. There were some pitches that you could have said the Stanford guy could have been called out on some. He didn't call him out. It was almost like he didn't want to ring people up at one point. But there were some times where you're like, just keep putting the ball in play. Keep putting the ball in play. It's going to break. Remember, on Saturday, we got lucky on a break in the outfield where the dude dropped the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So that series could have been over quickly, but we saw the fight in this baseball team. We've seen it all year. They may be down, but they're never out, and they put them there. And for the end of the season to happen like that, that is the most disheartening, hurtful. I mean, I would have wanted to get beat down as opposed to that right there.
I just it's one of those that's going to take a while to process.
Yeah.
Usually when you can kind of point out, the reasons that you lost, and I'm sure when you go back and they'll go back and break it down.
Absolutely.
And when they do, they'll go back and find out, hey, we could have had an extra run here. We gave up a extra run here. Our margin for error, of course, was a slight one. It was a small margin for error. But man, they fought all the way down to the end, and for it to end on basically a phenomenon that baseball people talk about that usually happens within the game but doesn't determine the game. It happened within the game at some time, but that basically what game was on the line. And it happened. And give Stanford credit. That's a hell of a home field advantage.
Man.
That's like, it's allowed. They have LED lights or something?
I don't even think they have LED light. Like I said, I think they have them lights that we have at our house. Like it's not working properly, because if you have those LED lights, it would be a lot brighter. You've been to the University of Texas. You've seen those lights. It's bright. It's really bright. You've seen them at Round Rock Express. Those things are bright. Those look like we were playing in the dark.
So you're saying they're not bright enough?
They're not bright enough. Those lights are terrible, and they're not high enough. That's the other part, because if you push them up higher, you have more room to see it. If they're only at a certain level, that's like the old school minor league ballparks where they have the old lights where you can't see, and you expect it at the lower levels. But at Stanford, come on, man. Invest in the lights.
Well, maybe because they usually play more in the day. They never play that late.
Yeah, because that is really late.
That was pretty late for them. So it worked out in their favor.
No excuses. Texas, you had a great run, and it's very, very unfortunate how that game ended. But the way that you battled back, Jack O'Dowd swinging the bat well, driving in runs, Dylan Campbell coming up with that great base hit up the middle. Then you have him making a great play in the outfield, throwing an absolute laser beam that Bo Jackson gave him a shout out in. There's just so many different things that you could take away from that game. But the biggest thing for me, situationally, you still had to do some things a little bit different, and there were opportunities where you left a lot of men on base too.
That's what, it's actually what our texter here talks about. Cracked apple of Austin said we left bases loaded in the 7th, left runners on in the 6th. It sucks that we lost that way, but we had opportunities.
We did
to blow it wide open.
Yep. Texas left 11 men on base yesterday. And what have I told you before? I mean, you can't leave those kind of
situational baseball.
Situational. You got to be able to drive them in and shorten up and put the ball in play. I mean, we had 12 strikeouts again yesterday.
Texas, how does a school with a multi-billion-dollar endowment and a top-tier engineering school not have decent sports lighting? Even Aggie can manage that. Yeah, I mean, I think they don't play a lot of night games. It's got to be the reason that they maybe would give, but also it's an advantage if your team knows how to play in that environment, and for other teams it's uncommon for them.
Yeah,
as you point out, it would be kind of an advantage.
They know how to hit the ball in the air and make you have to make a play.
So
I mean, that's the thing that drives me nuts, is because he did everything right. That is a routine play. That's like getting a ground ball back to the pitcher and him throwing it into the stands. Those are the plays that you sit there and you're like, man, that's how baseball go.
That is how baseball go.
It's a cruel game, man. Well, like we always talk about, you can be a failure 7 out of 10 times at the plate and still bat 300 and looked at as a star.
It was just it really was, man. Because even if Texas would have lost, it wouldn't have been as painful.
Right.
As losing in that manner.
Like if he rips it off the wall.
If they get just a homer.
Right.
I'm like, all right.
If a boy hits that walk-off that everybody thought was a walk-off and it hit the wall.
I would have felt like they earned it. Like Stanford earned it. They beat Texas. It's all good.
Yes.
And then even if, honestly, if that was a true error by Texas, kind of an old,
ground ball, throwing it into the stands.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I'd have felt better about it.
Yes. Been there.
Man, this one, it just leaves you sick.
It was a disgusting feeling. It was disgusting. I was just sitting there like you can't yell, you can't scream. You're just like, damn.
You're just forced to eat it.
Yeah, you're just like,
I don't know how.
Damn.
And it's gonna take a while to process that, man.
I put it this way: I just went and washed the dishes. That's literally what I did last night. I watched the finish of the NBA Finals, and you're like, wow, that was crazy. All right. And then you watch that, and you're like, oh, my God, Texas. And that happens. I'm like, all right, wash these dishes. So all my brain could do to process anything is let me just go do something manually that I don't have to think about anything, because I just feel so bad for the kids.
Oh, man.
That's what happened, but there's nothing you can do.
That's literally that's what Dylan Campbell said.
Yeah.
He's already on his way to processing it, and I wish him the best. He's leaving, right, to go get drafted?
Well, I mean, he definitely will be drafted. Now it's about the financial compensation, if it fits to what he's looking for from professional baseball. Doesn't mean, you're at that point now where, what is this, his junior year? People are staying in college a little bit longer. There may be some opportunities for him. I don't know. It just you just got to let it all play out, especially because of the fact you don't know what the draft how it's going to shake out. Because there may be some other guys that they look at and was like, all right, let's run with this guy, or hey, let's slot money for him at this spot. Because a lot of that now is the talking game. It's like, okay, I'm going to offer you this amount of money if we take you at this round. How do you feel about that? And then you start negotiating that as well. So it's a lot to play with now.
Yeah, that he would be, to me, I think it's like he'd be cashing in on his best season.
By far,
right?
By far. I mean, it's unbelievable,
his value,
the growth that we
high.
saw
no question.
from that young man this year.
But you're right, man. Maybe he sees more upside by coming back. That would be great. But we'll discuss more of that.
What did you say about NIL for Texas baseball? What was it? Like the lowest percentage?
It's like 10th out of all the sports
at Texas.
10th in terms of revenue generated for particular sports.
So what we said is all that money you saved up for Jell-O shots, TexasOneFund.org. TexasOneFund.org.
No, that's why if the money's not right, here at Texas for the NIL, I mean, they would have to be able to try to compete with whatever.
And I'm not sure if he's graduated yet either. He might be a graduate already too.
That also,
you know what I'm saying? So it kind of plays into it. Yeah.
He can start on his masters.
Believe me, if there's anything your boy can donate, that's in a viewable, spot.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, we can talk about the future of Texas baseball a little bit later on. We'll get back to that conversation. 6 o'clock, and Harge is going to do at 4:30.
Yep.
He's going to do a tribute, if you will,
No doubt.
to Texas baseball's season ending last night in heartbreaking fashion. All right, we come back. We'll get into the flex on the other side right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn.
Mike Harge here, and I want to talk to you about my friends over at the League Kitchen and Tavern. Chef-inspired comfort food at the League Kitchen and Tavern, and you can go to one of the 4 Austin area locations, whether it's Avery Ranch, BK, Belterra, and, of course, Lakeway. It is Austin-owned and operated. Whether you're dining in or picking up lunch or dinner, the League offers fresh-inspired chef specials for the month of June. The June cocktail of the month is the Mai Tai. That's for my boy Mikey. He loves the Mai Tai. And they got June entrees, the Hawaiian wings, pork sliders, tuna wonton salad, and the June burger of the month, the Luau Burger. That's right. Chef-inspired comfort food at 4 Austin area locations, Avery Ranch, BK, Belterra, and Lakeway. And it's Austin-owned and operated. Go to leaguekitchen.com today.
Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. It is a top of the charts Tuesday. That's when Patrick the Ideallionaire plays jams that reach the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. Okay, last segment we talked Texas baseball, and I recognized the song but didn't know what the song was, but just felt the mood of the song was
felt the vibe.
fitting for the conversation we're going to have. What was the song, Patrick?
So it's Painted Black by the Rolling Stones, but this song, I looked up what it was, and they were like, oh, this was written after Mick Jagger suffered a sudden loss.
There you go. See, I knew it. I didn't. That's just me feeling the music.
Yeah.
All right. And I was like, no, man, this unfortunately feels apropos for the conversation we're about to have. We're just having a conversation about the fly ball that got lost in the lights. Man, Harch, when it happened to you, how many times you talking about here? You said
I've had it multiple times.
Were you ever
it was
bailed
never
out?
Yes.
Were you bailed out on the play, or did it drop to the ground? You talking about?
It was.
Did it hit the ground?
We had a little bit of both. I've had both happen. I've had both where a guy is scoring from first base on a routine pop up. I've had a guy where I've had to run out to short right field to go get a ball because nobody can see it.
Nobody can see it. You're the only one that saw it.
And I've been in left field where I've turned and ran backwards and the ball wasn't going that far because the guy had a good swing on it, but he hit it.
I'm fascinated by this.
Yeah, it is the most fearful thing that you can do in baseball.
Because now we're hearing like a lot of baseball guys come out and be like, oh, no, it happens all the time. Heard Greg Sindel talk about it.
All the time.
It's just crazy that it hasn't happened more often. But like you said, in the big leagues, you don't see it because they got great lighting.
Lights. That's right.
And this is one of those situations where on a big stage, on a big platform, you got Stanford and their
and the reality is, if that's with one out, the runner at second doesn't go, the ball hits, you pick it up.
Correct.
You either have a throw. He probably only gets a third. Yep. So it has to be with 2 outs.
Yeah, that was the drama.
That is the drama.
That's why he was heading. That's why he was heading to the dugout.
That's why everybody was. Everybody pointed out. It was like, yes. I'm like, yeah, no.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry to bring that back. We'll get
Don't
back
worry,
to it.
we're gonna be back at it again.
Yes, we will. Okay, go to FLXATX.com, FLXATX on all of your social media platforms, and go check out the Flex there. There's information about the 707 up there as well. Tomorrow, remember, you'll have your Wednesday night Flex, but all the older Flex shows are up there at FLXATX.com. So go to FLXATX also on all your social media platforms. All right, we come back. We got J.J. Watt discussion to get into and where he stands all time because he's being inducted into the Texans Ring of Honor, gentlemen. Quite the honor. Actually, quite the honor for the Texans. They only got 2 people in it.
I was just about to ask you that. I was going to wait to ask, but now that you said they only got 2.
As a Texas fan, I'm excited because the Ring of Honor now, it looks legitimate.
Yeah, it's got more than 2 people.
There you go. Yeah. So we'll get into that. Also, we'll talk some Cowboys and we may be looking at some NFL holdouts at the running back position. Hart has been saying it for a while. They need their own. You said they need their own union.
They need to form a union.
They need the running backs union. This may be the start of it potentially.
And get David Mugoleta to be in charge of it.
Oh man, the Johnny Cochran of NFL agents.
Because he will help you get your money.
He will get your money. That's right. By any means necessary.
Exactly.
I will talk about C.J. Stroud as well, taking first team reps in minicamp already with the Texans and some other minicamp updates from around the NFL. All that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie. 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. If you are looking for a new career path, maybe you're thinking about something new, something fresh, something that will challenge you. Maybe you're frustrated with your work choices right now. I could recommend working for one of the best organizations here in Central Texas. Our good friends over at Ironworkers Local Union 482. Right now, they're hiring over 3,000 people for a huge project right here in Central Texas, and you can become a valued member of Ironworkers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that helps shape the future of this great city. We know this is a beautiful city. That's why we all call it home. Part of the reason that Austin aesthetic appeal is so intriguing is because the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local Union 482. They've been helping shape this city for a long time, since 1935, and you see the labors of their love all over this great city and iconic landmarks like DKR Stadium and the Pennybacker Bridge. And as our city continues to grow and thrive, so does Ironworkers Local Union 482. They don't go to the office, they build it. So if you're looking for an exciting new career path, you want something new, something fresh, you can become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and accept the challenge of becoming the best version of yourself while helping shape Austin's economic development. So right now you can apply at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. It is a top of the charts Tuesday. That's my man Patrick the Idealionaire. Takes jams that reached the top of the Billboard charts and played on this day in history and plays those jams for us. And Boogeyman.
Yes, I'm your boogeyman.
Turn me on.
I picture Nikola Jokic like in a commercial of some sort dancing to this song.
It's gonna be a Taco Bell one.
There you go.
Yeah.
Boom. There you go. That's
you go.
perfect. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Because he's definitely the NBA boogeyman right now.
He is the boogeyman.
Yeah, man. The NBA can't
The
figure
Grim
out.
Sleeper.
No, he is, man. He deserves it. He doesn't want any of the attention.
Yeah.
He just wants the championships and the accolades. But he's gonna get plenty of attention, man. He at this point, it's time for him to stop being the best kept secret in the NBA.
Yep.
Everybody needs to know that he's the best player on the planet. And so we'll get back to that conversation too, talking about Nikola Jokic. I want to get into some NBA discussion. Also, we'll get back to the heartbreaking, gut wrenching, soul crushing. Any other things?
No.
Yeah, man. Okay.
I think those are enough.
Lost for the Texas baseball team to Stanford, just in the fashion in which they lost, where they lost a pop-up fly in the lights, which Harge is telling us a lot more common than you think.
Exactly.
And unfortunately for Texas, it happened at that time, and it ended up being. Is it classified as a walk-off?
Yeah.
Like a walk-off hit
It's a
for
base hit.
Stanford. It's a walk-off
Yeah.
hit for them.
Yep.
So because I think a texter texted us that they on their phone, I guess they got updated. It was a walk-off win for Stanford.
Yeah. It's
And
a
they-
hit.
and
It's
they
a
were-
knock. They don't give you, hey, when the box score come out,
Yeah,
my box score say I was 3 for 4.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't know how
You
I
have to
got
go
them
back and
3.
watch it. It was like,
Exactly.
oh, that was your game winner?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that was a game winner, man.
Yep.
So I guarantee you when that young man said Bowser, what's his
Yeah,
name?
Bowser.
When he tells the story, I don't know if he'll tell that detail. In like 10 years, he's talking the story about his walk-off win.
They're going to
He'll
say,
forget
man,
all about the
I
pop-up
already
fly.
Googled it. You can't lie to me,
He'll
dog.
forget all about that little detail.
Yep.
Hey, Robbie, forget them details in my stories too, man. Whatever
Yep.
it takes. All right, let's get to some NFL news, notes, and nuggets, gentlemen. First of all, Harsh, what you got coming up on Harsh Knock Life? Speaking
I'm going to
of
put a
Texas
wrap on
baseball.
this Texas baseball season from what I saw and the things that I really, really enjoyed about this baseball team.
A lot to enjoy about this Texas
Yep,
baseball team.
absolutely.
And you know what? How about this? Since we're talking Texas baseball right now, we won't talk. We'll talk about it in depth more in Harsh Knock Life, of course, and we'll do it later on in 6 o'clock too. But the consolation prize for Texas baseball, losing in the Super Regionals to Stanford in Game 3 in what was just soul-crushing fashion. The Bo Jackson shout-out tweet
Yep.
to Dylan Campbell.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. Saw that cannon right there.
Wow.
He played some
Come
good
on,
right
man.
field, man.
Come on, guy. I mean,
Yeah.
Bo Jackson, he don't even use Twitter that often. Bo Jackson, Twitter shout out to Dylan Campbell.
He told his Twitter people to tweet that out.
Ooh, well, it don't matter. Came from Bo Jackson's
Hey,
official account.
tweet that out.
means Bo Jackson approved it.
That's right.
He saw the play and was like, I approve.
Message
Bo
approved.
knows.
That's right.
Dude,
Bo knows.
for Texas sports fans, this is easily the best social media flex for a Texas sports figure since Beyonce wore that that 14 jersey when David Ash was the starting quarterback at Texas. And remember how good
How good she looked.
how good she looked and how good he must have felt. Like,
Yeah.
Beyonce wearing that.
And he probably didn't
I'm
know
the
who she
starting
was
quarterback.
because he ain't have no TV when he was in Belton.
That is true.
You know
That's
what I'm
true.
saying?
But now he knows.
Now he definitely knows.
If I'm him, I got that picture blown up in my crib, my
Yeah.
man cave, just right there. Oh yeah, and then my jersey, a photo of me
Yeah.
in the jersey right next to Beyonce in the
Yeah.
jersey,
Oh, yeah.
like just so
Turned
y'all,
up.
just in case y'all can't put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah.
That's what it is right there. But just ipso facto, she's a David Ash fan. I just made her a David Ash fan. But
Yep.
that's a nice social media flex for Dylan Campbell,
is.
who of course is still heartbroken. Was sure about it. Considering the way Texas lost that game to Stanford. Okay, let's get to NFL news, notes, and nuggets, gentlemen. Some mini camp stuff that we'll get to regarding the Texans because we talked about the Cowboys mini camp happening last week. This week, the Texans are reporting to their mini camp, so we'll get to that. First Texans news that we'll talk about is J.J. Watt being inducted into the Texans Ring of Honor. I believe only Andre Johnson and Bob McNair are in it.
Wow.
That's it. So the guy that helped found the Texans organization and Andre Johnson, who, before J.J. Watt was the greatest player in Texans history. And week 4, October 1st versus Pittsburgh. That is the Ring of Honor game. Texans are undefeated in Ring of Honor games. 2-0. Shout out. So that's a nice little mojo they got going there. Can't lose when you're inducting one of your greatest players into your Ring of Honor. You can't lose that game. That's embarrassing.
It is.
Right?
You gotta have that pass rush too. You got that D'Amico Ryan's pass rush.
Yeah. So that's Pitt versus Pittsburgh. They got to win that game. All right, Jim. Let's talk about J.J. Watt for a second here. He's going to be inducted into the Ring of Honor. He was drafted 11th overall, and I remember this, Patrick. You do because you were a Texans fan, and then you renounced fandom, then came back to the Texans fandom most recently. He was booed. Or at least the draft pick. He wasn't booed. The draft pick was booed. I shouldn't say he was booed. The draft pick was booed. They didn't like the draft pick initially. And all Texans fans ended up being dead wrong about that. I remember when the Cowboys fans, who they booed? They booed like Zach Frederick. They booed.
Yeah, we have a tendency.
Travis Frederick.
I'm always booing our draft picks in case you didn't notice.
You did. You were upset. You didn't boo. You threw a mini temper tantrum over the Tyler Smith pick.
Has Tyler.
Ended up being a good pick for the Cowboys.
Doggone good pick.
But getting back to it, J.J. Watt, he has 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards on his resume. He had a consecutive back-to-back years where he was basically the most dominant player in the game. In 2014, 2015, he won back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year awards, and he won his first Defensive Player of the Year award, I believe, in 2012. And then 2013, he had a good year. So basically from 2012 to 2015, he was the best defensive player in the league, almost, hands down. And at one point in that run, 2014, he had a season that landed him second on the MVP voting.
Right.
Behind Aaron Rodgers. He had 20.5 sacks that year and 5 touchdowns he scored on offense and defense. He was just he
was a freak.
He was a man amongst boys that year. I remember that. And then came his decline was a rapid one because in 2016, 2017, he basically missed those 24 games in that time period. He did come back to have a 16-sack season in 2018, but that was just kind of the last hurrah for him. That was it. But for that stretch, guys, from 2012 to 2015, it may be tough. It may be tougher. It may be tough to find a better stretch, I should say, defensively for any team, for any player in NFL history, because that stretch is one of the greatest stretches defensively we've ever seen. Only 3 players have won Defensive Player of the Year 3 times, and that's Lawrence Taylor, J.J. Watt, and Aaron Donald.
Yeah, and Aaron Donald. That's right. And you sit here and you look at it, you talk about 128 games over 10 years, and then you also have the fact that he had 101 sacks, 2 interceptions, and he had to return for touchdowns, and of his 2 interceptions, he returned them for touchdowns. 27 fumble recoveries. 27 during his time with the Texans, and the fact, too, that he ended up getting traded away. And then, Brad, you brought that up about the game that they're going to be playing at. They're playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and his brother, TJ, is going to be in the house, too. So that may the schedule makers did them a favor.
Nice.
Or the actual Houston Texans looked at the schedule and said, hey, my brother's going to be here. Let's do it during this time, and that way he can be out there for that because he is the next Watt that will be inducted into a Ring of Honor at some point because he's already making his case for Defensive Player of the Year every single year. He's a freak, and you see the wins and losses when he's on the field for Pittsburgh versus when he's not. So it's going to be something to look at. But what J.J. Watt did for the city of Houston as well, where he was embraced, he played catch with fans in the stand. He was just that guy. And, not being a Texans fan, but a Texas football guy, I love the way J.J. Watt went out there and made his mark out there. Sometimes I thought it was a little corny at times, but you can never take away his energy and his passion for the game that he went out there. This guy went to college as a walk-on.
He did.
He went to Wisconsin, went somewhere else first.
I think it was Central Michigan.
Central Michigan, and told his parents, I hate it here. Yeah. I'm going to walk on. Y'all just pay for me for a little while. I'll earn a scholarship. And he did, and now look at what he's done. He's paid his family back in tons
No, it's Patrick. You're a Texans fan. I mean,
he's
watched-
going to be the first Texans Hall of Famer.
no doubt.
But he's the first
He
because
will
Andre
be.
Johnson's not,
He's not
a
gonna
Hall
make
of Famer, and so that's your only other guy that was close. So this will be your first, and that'll be a huge deal for the Texans when that happens. But yeah, I mean, it's the career was amazing. There was that run where it was just every time you just knew this. Anytime there was a big play, you knew he was going to be involved in it. He always was winded, so he always had that great look. Coming back to
Exhausted.
cutting back to him on a third down, and you're like, is he about to die on the field?
Yeah.
And then he would burst off the line and get to the quarterback. You're like, I guess he just didn't want to work that much longer. I don't.
Yeah, there's a WWE element to J.J. Watt too.
100%. He's the Undertaker coming up from the ground, ready to go. You can't get rid of me.
Very
I'm back.
dramatic, very dramatic. But you know what? I loved watching J.J. Watt, and also people thought he was corny. I remember that critique about J.J. Watt. But man, like I said, that stretch from 2012 to 2015. I don't know if you can find a better stretch defensively for almost any player. Aaron Donald's probably in that discussion too, but he put up some crazy. J.J. Watt put up some crazy stats. He had 2 20-plus sack seasons in that time span too. So he might be considered. I know he's top 10 all-time defensive players. I mean, some people might have him in the top 5.
Yep.
I mean, he might be in that conversation when you look at only 3 players have won Defensive Player of the Year 3 times, and he is one of those 3. Now, would you have him ahead of Reggie White or Bruce Smith? 8 players have won Defensive Player of the Year more than once. So he's in that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
But as a Texans fan, I think it's going to be really emotional for Texans fans out there and for J.J. Watt, too, because like you said, he's got a different connection to the city after the Hurricane Harvey efforts that he had, raising the $41 million, too. So Texans fans, Houstonians, have a special connection to J.J. Watt. He also may be all-time greatest Houston-related athletes, too. He might be top 10 in that category. Talking about Hakeem the Dream is obviously considered on a different level.
Definitely.
Earl Campbell, Warren Moon's in that conversation. Nolan Ryan, Bagwell, Biggio.
Yeah.
Who am I missing here? I'm missing guys. Carl
Nolan
Lewis.
Ryan.
Yeah, I said Nolan Ryan. Didn't I say Nolan? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Carl Lewis is in the conversation.
Carl Lewis is definitely somebody that Houstonians have
He's one of the greatest Olympians ever.
Exactly.
He claims
I'm gonna throw one in. He's on the edge, but Clyde Drexler because he played college there too.
Yes.
If he did not play
Drexler's in
college,
there.
then his best
Yes.
years are in Portland. But if you put college in, then I'll put Rockets and Houston College.
That's true.
Calvin Murray. They love Calvin Murray in the city.
Yeah.
They
That's a good
love
point.
Calvin Murray in the city.
They do love Calvin. Yeah, because he still does.
He
like,
still does the Rockets.
The games.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the color.
Somebody just said Altuve.
Yeah, he won.
Altuve's
He
in there.
won 2 World Series.
Yeah.
Altuve's in there. No, I agree. Altuve's in there. Hold up for the Oilers? Isn't Bruce Matthews in the Hall
Yeah.
of Fame?
Yes.
Bruce Matthews got to be in that
Bruce
conversation.
Matthews,
He was too
yeah.
damn good.
And
So
of
he's
course,
in there.
Earl.
Yeah, Earl's. Like I said, Earl's are top of
Yeah,
mind
we all
for
know
me.
the 34s are all in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is true. That is
Yeah.
true. That's our buddy Chris Amadeus has a picture of all of the 34s together.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, it is an outstanding picture.
All right. So he's in the top 10, but hell, you're right. That's a right now a really, really impressive group. So I would put him in the top 10, but I think we just listed probably 10 guys right there.
Yeah.
So I think he's probably in that group of guys, all-time great Houston-related stars.
And it's good to bring him back to Houston at when you're trying to rebuild your franchise and trying to rebuild your image after everything you went through, to be like, all right,
Yes.
D'Amico Ryans, let's
No
bring in
doubt.
J.J. Watt to be a part of this.
Yep.
To help out with D'Amico Ryans, to help bring our image back to being a actual football team instead of just a raging dumpster fire.
I'm with you.
Yep.
That's a great point. I totally agree with that. Okay.
And luckily him and DeAndre Hopkins both went to, from all accounts, a worse dumpster fire franchise. From when you keep hearing from players that it's the worst franchise in sports from players' perspectives.
It's so crazy that the Texans were one of the top 10 most profitable sports organizations in the world in the last 3 years, and yet we're a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
There's a lot of potential with this organization if they ever can get it together. But you're right. They need this for the morale, actually, of the community and the organization, because there's a lot of distrust between the Texans fans and that organization because of what transpired the last 3 years or so. But building up that trust again, and the J.J. Watt Ring of Honor is a way to do that. Speaking of Texans mini camp updates, C.J. Stroud is taking first-team reps. So we're done with the conversation about Davis Mills officially. Like, it's done. He was splitting first-team reps, but now it
was all a formality.
Yeah, he's taking first-team reps. It's still, some say it's going to be a weekly rotation thing, but more and more he's getting first-team reps. It's done, and it should be. It should just give him the job. Now, well, I want him to earn it, but he is the franchise quarterback.
Yes.
Let's not play games. Let's not play games.
That's why you drafted him.
That's why you drafted him.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That's why you drafted him, and that's why you made the trade with Will. Like, you got to remember, C.J. Stroud is part of that trade for Will Anderson, whether people want to make it that or not.
Absolutely.
Because you could have just taken Will Anderson at 2.
Yep.
So he's part of that. If you needed both of those guys, then you have to put C.J. Stroud in that, hey, if this doesn't work out, both these guys need to be held accountable. So both those guys, they need to try and fast-track as much as they can to get into play. And we saw Carolina has said that Bryce Young is getting first-team reps now, too. He is now QB1. So both starters have now been placed as QB1.
I totally agree.
Go to your rightful position.
Exactly. Now, if you got a starter that you think you can win with,
right,
like Alex Smith, when the Kansas City Chiefs had him and then drafted Mahomes, by all means, go ahead, win with that quarterback.
Yep.
You can't win with Davis Mills, and you know that. And whoever the Panthers have. Who do the Panthers have?
They had, oh, God.
Exactly. You can't win with that guy.
It's Matt Corral.
Yeah. But not even. I was thinking. Remember,
they
had
with Matt Corral.
They signed somebody else too.
I'm not hating on Matt Corral, but my point is, you don't know if you can win with Matt Corral. You don't know if you can win with Bryce Young in the league either. To be fair, but at least that guy, you spent all the draft capital on the number one overall.
Andy Dalton.
Oh, that's right. Andy Dalton went there.
Because remember, Sam Darnold left to go to San Fran.
Oh,
so.
Hey, that's the only franchise that actually can win
with that backup quarterback. That's right. That's right.
Hey, no matter who's going to take the stats for the 49ers, we all predicting double-digit wins.
Yeah, no doubt.
Somehow.
Yeah.
Okay, some other training camp notes that are happening. So there are a couple of stories out there, and I really didn't know much about this, but Saquon Barkley is not going to sign his franchise tender. He's not going to sign his franchise tag. And that is it's interesting because I wonder if he'll think about holding out. There's a lot of talk about the running back position, and you've talked about it, Harge, and how devalued, undervalued the running back position has become. And the NFL's not changing their mind about that, by the way.
It seems to be that
Austin
they are
Eckler,
not.
He's the latest that he had to take a little bit of a discount short term because he wants big money. These running backs, they want big money. They're not getting it. Dalvin Cook is out there. We'll see what he gets. But Saquon Barkley's trying to reset the running back market, I believe.
And rightfully so.
I think he wants to.
I just don't understand how we've gone from the fact that they do not believe in the running back position, especially because of Saquon Barkley is more than just a running back. He catches passes out of the backfield. He blocks when you need him to, and he rushes the football. So you're not just this isn't just hand the ball off running back. This guy is versatile, and he can run. And the problem, I think, with a lot of these backs is you don't play hurt. I think that plays a little bit into it, too. Like, the running back position is so violent. We understand, but all of the positions are violent. But the fact of the matter is, nowadays, he's dinged up, so he's not going to be in the lineup today. Wait, what? Everybody's dinged up. You got to be out. But again, it goes back to the agents. It goes back to the coaching staff. Hey, man, if you're hurt, man, we want to have you for the long haul. Well, which is it? Which is it? You going to devalue me, or do you want me for the long haul? I need to be in the game because I need to show that I can play through injuries. I can make sure that I am there. I show up for work every single day, and you can count on me. The best availability is being available, and you haven't been able to do that. So maybe that's some of the reason, because if you go back and look at some of these running backs, they have missed quite a few games. Even Austin Eckler missed quite a few games. Saquon, quite a few games. Josh Jacobs, he's holding out too, rightfully so. This guy, didn't he lead the league in rushing yards last year, I believe?
Yeah, but he had a worse year the year before. But again, like all this comes down to at what point are you going to, as running backs, all you need is like, I don't know, 30 running backs to get together and be like, no, none of us are going to play until y'all figure this out. And y'all figure out that next level below, because for some reason y'all think wide receivers are insanely more important than us. And there's a line in between where you go, they're more important. They are not 10 times more important than us. So, I mean, I get that you only need 3 of them on a roster. You're only probably going to try and play 2 at a time. And if you say, well, I got to play this guy and I'd rather play the guy, if I have to pay somebody and I can find a running back for $1 million a year, or I find a rookie and pay him on a rookie scale, or I have to pay a guy $8 million. So I'm not saying even over 10, but they're not even going up to like 6 or 7 or 8 now. They're no, we'll give you 3.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. They just cut the guy out of the Patriots. Just cut a guy because his contract was not guaranteed, and they were like, you're coming off an injury. We're not sure. We're going to get rid of you.
Yeah,
it's absurd to a point of I get it's market, it's how it works, but at some point the line has to switch for some of these guys. And I hope that Saquon and Josh Jacobs and guys not on the teams I'm rooting for sit out and make it a little bit more fair for everybody else. But that's really all you can do is if enough guys keep holding out at a point and you start to get contracts back, it can sway it a little bit further back. But, yeah, I will never get how Christian Kirk can change the wide receiver market to way overpriced, where everyone agrees they're overpriced, where Odell Beckham Jr. just got a huge contract, and if we're talking about availability, that guy's the last in line.
Yep.
And then you're on the other side, and you're like, hey, man, what are you, the leading rusher? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, minimum wage sounds good, right? Like, I don't mean veteran. I don't mean minimum of NFL. I mean, literally, we're going to hire you, and you're also going to have to do desk work when you're not playing football.
No, it is. I will admit at this point, I don't see how the running backs are going to reverse the trend. They could decide to hold out. Le'Veon Bell was the last that did it at running back. He was the last to do it at running back, where he held out, and it worked out for him. I mean, he lost some money, but he ended up getting paid to recoup a lot of that. We'll see if Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley decide, that they want to hold out, or at least they want to force the issue of trying to increase the value overall of the running back position, because those two guys can't do it. Like I said, one guy's got on his resume, he led the league in rushing. The other guy was a top 5 pick at running back, and neither one of those guys can reset the market. I don't know who's going to do it. Bijan, maybe, when it's time. That's 3-4 years down the line.
And remember, they gave him all of his money guaranteed. He got his money guaranteed already at $21 million, Bijan did. So he's already ahead of everybody else as far as the guarantee part. But it also gives him that leverage to, when it's time for him to go, somebody's going to give him that because he plays a different part of the game. That's the thing. It's like, I could see if you're valuing them just as runners. These guys do everything for you. You don't even have to take them off the field. They're 3 down backs.
I know, but then the NFL would just argue that what's the deterioration rate? What's the rate of injury with that position? And that's where the devaluation starts.
Yeah.
They're looking at the rate of injury, and they're looking at the shelf life of running backs.
Which is why I say these guys got to stop saying I'm hurt and go back out there and play, because they sit out a lot. And I get it. I'm not looking at them and saying they're not legitimately hurt, but in case you want to change the narrative, you have to figure out another way to make sure that you are available.
It's a tough position. That's why you do running back by committee.
It sucks.
I don't know which side to pick in this one. I feel for the running backs. It is unfair, but I know why they're devalued.
Yeah. I think we all do.
We understand why they're devalued.
Right.
Look at all the Super Bowl champions. They don't really have.
No, I gave you those numbers the other day.
They don't really have a lot of high-priced running backs.
None.
Yeah.
Solid quarterback and wide receivers.
Exactly.
And the edge rushers.
And the edge rushers. All right, what you got coming up for the people on Harsh Knock Life?
Talk a little bit about this Texas baseball team and kind of put a bow on what we saw this year.
All right, we're talking some Texas baseball. We're going to be a little bit more optimistic, a little
let's
positive in this review of Texas baseball. So we'll talk about the good side, the positive things from this past season. There are a lot of them. All of that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn.
Welcome back to a Top of the Charts Tuesday. That's right, folks. Today is Tuesday, and your boy is well versed on what day it is, unlike yesterday at this time when I thought Monday was Tuesday. But your boy is back. I've got it figured out. That's right. This is Top of the Charts Tuesday edition of Ball Don't Lie. It's your boy Hardball Harge. You can follow me on Twitter at Hardball Harge. You can follow my man Rod Babers at Rod Babers. And, of course, you can follow the man behind the glass at It's Patrick Davis. You can also be a part of the show because we love it when you keep sending us your texts on the Specs text line 512-337-3776. And first and foremost, I want to give a shout-out to the Texas baseball team on an amazing, amazing season. This season, yesterday, came to an end by the unthinkable end of the season, losing to the Stanford Cardinals 7-6 on a lost ball in the twilight sky of California. It is something that we weren't expected to see. We saw this team battle throughout the season, and it has been a great season. And let me give a little backstory to where we were yesterday. Last season, Texas baseball team went 47-22. This season, they finished 42-22. So they were around the same area. But let's talk about the offseason and where it started at from last year. You go to Omaha, you take the loss, you get swept in Omaha, 2 in barbecue, everybody's upset. Changes started to happen. Tulo leaves, Sean Allen goes to Ohio State. You move Sean Miller into another role. He becomes the special assistant to the head coach. Then you bring in former head coach at Baylor, my buddy Steve Rodriguez. Then you bring in Woody Williams, former big league player and pitching coach from San Jack. You move Caleb Longley to the assistant position, and then you bring in Chris Gordon to be from Duke as the coordinator of pitching and hitting development. You also add Cameron Rupp as a student assistant to the squad. So there was a lot of changes in the front office, so to speak, within there. And then you got to come in, you lose your shortstop, your catcher, your third baseman, your center fielder, your right fielder, and your all-everything award-winning first baseman, not to mention your Friday and Saturday starters. Then you have guys transfer out, go to different schools. Now you got to bring different guys in. So what does Texas do? They hit the transfer portal, they hit some high school kids, and they get ready to conquer the Big 12. Now, before the season, we talked about the struggles at the very beginning that might occur. New team, new messaging, new everything. You're learning different players. You're learning how to deal with certain players. But most importantly, we didn't have to ask for the panic button. Y'all asked me. I went to Arlington, got a chance to see this team play. But not only did I get to see Texas play, I got to see other teams within the Big 12 Conference go through their struggles at the very beginning of the year. Let's not forget, the beginning of the season, TCU was the team that was supposed to be the number one team in the conference. They ended up not winning the Big 12, but they are the team that's going to Omaha, by the way. Ding, 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 ding. Let's not forget that. But they are going there. So we didn't have to hit the panic button, and our expectations were kind of tempered, right, at the very beginning of it all. Now, but you can't do that here at Texas. It's not about that. We don't rebuild, we reload. And you go out there and you look at how they went and got some of these guys in the transfer portal, and you're like, man, here we go. Okay, let's see what happens now. Let's see what happens. Well, they go 0-3 in Arlington, and everybody's trying to figure out. And the only game that I will tell you that I was very upset while watching them play was the Vanderbilt game. And they ended up losing that game 12-2, but it was because of all the errors that were being made. And that was something that we knew once they got back home, they were going to clear it and get back to work, and that's exactly what they did. They played well all year and went on to win a share of the Big 12 regular season championship. After witnessing Ivan the Hispanic Titanic Melendez home run race, we got a chance to watch Dylan Campbell get his 38-game hit streak, a Big 12 record, and continue to get better. And I forget the number. I think he's at 46 games that he's reached base safely throughout the season. So, crazy. And then we also got to see the development of a LeBaron Johnson on the mound. He was somebody that didn't even get a chance to pitch last year. I think he pitched like 17 innings. And you got a chance to watch some of these guys grow. I got a chance to watch Jack O'Dowd get better at the plate and at the field. We got a chance to watch a freshman, Jared Thomas, who replaced Ivan Melendez at first base, go from the beginning of the year where my man he was drinking water through a fire hose at the beginning of the year playing college baseball, but he always had a smile on his face, and he came in and he went to work. I talked to him in the elevator in Arlington. I was like, man, you ready for this? He's like, I was born ready for this. He was so excited about it. And I didn't know the kid from anybody, but I got a chance to talk to him a little bit. I was like, okay, I like his energy, and he just seemed to want to work, and we saw his growth and maturation throughout the year, too. We saw Peyton Powell take over the hot corner. My guy Mitchell Daly, who he blocked out the noise. He was pulled multiple times from shortstop, but he ended up playing some really good shortstop, and he had a lot of clutch hits this season for the Texas Longhorn. We watched the outfielder Porter Brown, Eric Kennedy, and the man that Bo Jackson gave a shout-out to, DC Dylan Campbell, grow up right before our very eyes. We saw these guys make huge strides this year. And then we saw my man G-Wagon behind the plate, Garrett Gilmet, he grew on me, and I ended up loving his fire and his leadership for this team and how he was helping the pitching staff come together, because it was rough. Remember, there were some ups and downs that was happening to that pitching staff, but this pitching staff went on to probably be one of the best ERAs in the Big 12. And it was a struggle, but at times they were going through certain things, and they came through at the end to sweep West Virginia with their backs against the wall to get a regular season share of the Big 12 championship. But the bottom line, what I've kind of learned throughout these years, and Rod, you and I have played sports for a very long time at the very high level, but a lot of times the outside noise can kind of affect and clutter some of your thought process, not just amongst the players, but amongst the coaching staffs. And all you can do is just go out there and keep your head down and keep grinding. And the bottom line is we have to let coaches do what they do. We can be critical of certain situations. We're going to be critical of certain things. But at the beginning of the season, towards the end of the season, week-to-week improvement is a sign of a well-coached team. And I think we strongly believe that this team got better as the season went on. The bonds that they were building, even if they didn't like Coach Pierce or were mad, they were bonding together to go out there and play, because at the end of it, he can tell us everything under the moon and all this other stuff, but we have to be the ones to go out there and play. And I know a lot of people always talk about, when are we going to start holding the players accountable? Because remember, we went through it with Tom Herman. We went through it with Coach Sark. A lot of guys, we can call the plays. We saw it with the basketball team as well. Everybody was losing their mind, and then the next thing you know, RT comes in, does a great job, becomes the head coach. People lose their mind because we're losing these players, and then all of a sudden, our team is one of the strongest rosters that are out there. So the bottom line is just let the coaches do what they're capable of doing. And if you want to be critical, cool, but wait for the season to be over and then take a look back at what has happened. Because our man Joe Cook, shout out to Joe Cook, go to Joe Cook 89 on Twitter. He wrote an article on May 21st.
Okay.
Talking about David Pierce and him being a winner. And that's exactly where we got to start looking at this. And so what? You don't like his style. This team plays hard. So what? You don't think he's the right guy. My man has been to Omaha a bunch of times. He's won Big 12 championships. Do you agree with everything? How many of you at your job right now agree with your bosses every single move? You don't. It's impossible unless you're the boss. Unless you're the boss, you're the only one that agrees with yourself. I promise you that.
All the time.
So you sit there and you look at his career. His first year at the University of Texas, we went to the Long Beach Regional Finals. Second year, he wins the Big 12 championship, and they go to the College World Series. Now, 19 and 20, 19, yeah, you could be very upset because that was a bad, bad year for Texas baseball. In 2020, when the season got canceled, Texas was 14 and 3 at that time.
Yeah.
And then you go to 21, You go 50-17, Big 12 championship, and you got third place in the College World Series. 2022, 47-22, College World Series. 2023, you lose in the regional semifinals. The regional, super regionals on a pop-up. You know what I'm saying? On a pop-up that is normally a play, that is a routine play, and it ends up getting lost in the night sky. So you're a co-Big 12 champs, and you lose in that Stanford Regional, and your team goes 42-22. Guys, just let the man do what he do, and everything else will take care of itself. I was on the fence. I've been on these airways talking about it. I knew that there was going to be some changes, but just like everything else, we have to let everything take its course because we're always quick to rush to judgment. We can always think that we know better because we've seen it. And you look at other teams, and you're like, oh, man, why don't we have that guy? Well, man, look, my wife's probably like, how come I ain't dating that dude? Because you got me, baby. Because you got me. You know what I'm saying? So you got to look at it. We're always looking for what's out there, and always been one to say, don't always try to look at how green somebody else's grass is because you don't know what they're fertilizing it with. And it may not be the same. And I heard somebody talking about this today, talking about Rodney Terry quote, stand where your feet are. Don't worry about what's going on everywhere else. Just support this team, get behind this team, and continue to push because I thoroughly enjoyed myself watching this Texas baseball team play the entire year. I loved watching these guys grow. I've watched them mature, and I watched them get better. Yeah. And the one thing we talk about a lot in football, Rod, is development, right? That's the narrative about Texas football. Oh, it looks like they're turning the corner. Look like some of these guys are getting developed. That's what it's all about. We saw LeBaron Johnson get developed. We saw Peyton Powell get better at third base. We saw Jack O'Dowd get better. We saw Dylan Campbell. We saw Porter Brown come in. You have to be able to mix and match all these guys together too. And that's the other part. So I take my hat off to this baseball team. I give a shout out to Coach Pierce and his staff. They did a really good job when the expectations was Texas is going to be terrible this year. It's a rebuilding year. We don't know what to expect. And we were an out away from taking it to an extra inning and possibly getting a chance to play in the World Series again.
Who in your mind is a lock to leave? Who is a lock to leave?
I think,
and of those who have the option, of course, who is a lock to leave or a lock to stay?
I think LeBaron Johnson is a guy that I would pay a lot of attention to. Because of his development and his upside. Okay. We've heard about the sponge-like mindset that he has where he just takes everything in. And when you can teach that and he can grasp it, it's a beautiful thing because he's got good life on his – we've heard Coach Pierce talk about the fact that he's had he can throw. He got the 3 best pitches on the team, and he's been able to do it. I mean, Lucas Gordon is going to get a chance to play at the next level. I would be very interested to see what happens with Dylan Campbell.
Me too.
That is the one guy. And then I found out Porter Brown has another year if he wants to come back. So there's just certain players that you kind of look at it. But to answer your question, I think LeBaron Johnson would be the one that I would want to look at the most because of the upside. Dylan's going to get his shot. I mean, I'm hearing that he might be a top 8th round pick. But what does the financials look like for him?
Agreed.
And and again, I don't know. Somebody may know. I don't know if he's graduated already. So that might play another part of how close is he to graduating, and that's another avenue to the now world of college athletics.
Yeah, now NIL.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on, I don't know the money of 8th round picks, so, and I don't know what the NIL situation is for Texas baseball, but that's also a factor these days. So we'll give you more updates about anything else we hear from Texas baseball about the off season. But there you go, Harge, giving a lot of props about Texas baseball. And they really, it was a really inspiring season considering that they were picked to finish 4th in the Big 12, I believe. Viewed as a rebuilding year. And a lot of Texas baseball fans will tell you Texas baseball should never be rebuilding. Well, and I don't disagree with that.
Yeah,
right? I don't disagree with that at all. All right, we come back. We'll get into what could have been one of the greatest what ifs in sports history. All that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie. 104.9 The Horn. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Real quick, we'll get to off the record here because we don't have a ton of time. So Jerry West, the great Jerry West, he was on the Paul George podcast. Paul George, yes, has a podcast. And he brought up... Everybody does have a podcast these days. But he actually brought up what could have been one of the greatest what-ifs, I guess, now in sports history. We can add this to the list. Here is Jerry West.
He became a free agent, and his agent then was Rob Pelinka. So I met them in Orange County in a hotel room, and he said he wanted to come to Memphis and play basketball. Really? And I looked at him, and I said, "You kidding me?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Kobe, no. You belong somewhere out here, okay?" And even though he would have never played there, I just wanted to reassure him that don't feel like you have any obligation with me or the Grizzlies to play here. I guess in some sense that might have been tampering. I didn't look at tampering because he was at our house all the time. He ate at my house all the time. I felt more like a father figure with him. I had a wonderful relationship with him. Forget it as a basketball player. I love what he stood for. His commitment to excellence. He wasn't afraid of failing. Once you get afraid of failing, you're going to fail. He was not afraid.
All right, there you go, guys. Another great what if. Jerry West saying that Kobe Bryant, at least seriously considered, leaving the Lakers in 2004 to play for the Grizzlies. That wouldn't have sounded right either way. But, man, what if it would have happened?
No way.
No way?
Oh, my goodness. That would have been a terrible, terrible move for Kobe Bryant. I mean, Kobe.
You don't think Kobe would have won a title in Memphis?
No.
Really?
No.
Okay.
I mean, he was where he needed to be.
He wouldn't have won one? Not one?
Remember, wasn't he drafted by Charlotte? Wasn't that the original team?
No,
that's where he should have stayed.
Yeah, he got drafted by Charlotte and refused to play there, so they traded him, and that's how the Lakers got a really good deal on him. Let's just put this. This was at a time, and I feel like Jerry may have admitted part of this statement, which was, if Shaq's still there, I will leave and I'll play in Memphis. I think is closer to probably what it was. 2004 was when him and Shaq were at the crossroads of, we can't play together anymore. I hate you. You won't. I want to be the guy. You want to be the guy. I am the guy, so get off my team. That was that year. So 2004 is when Shaq's gone. But that was when Kobe was basically leveraging every single thing he could to tell the Lakers, if you do not trade Shaq, I will not come back. So that's what was happening in this time frame. So he was probably going to Jerry West, knowing that Jerry West was going to call the Lakers and be like, hey, your guy's really disheveled. Like, he was going to talk to a guy and be like, hey, guy really doesn't like it there. So they could be like, oh, I guess we got to get rid of Shaq.
Yeah. And
like this.
Ultimately, Kobe won that power struggle.
He did. And then, like 2 years later, it was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
We were really good.
He still won one.
They had to
Paul
go get,
Gasol.
when they got Powell in there, they came back.
I think if you get Kobe, you can, I'm not saying they'd won multiple titles, but I think he could have won one with another champ. It would have taken him a while to build around it. But I do believe the greats can get you one. The great, like Nikola Jokic.
Yep.
The great. If you're truly an all-time great, I think you can get one. You can get one.
You can get your one.
If you want multiples, then yeah, you need to build a true like team around that player. Like you gotta build for the long term. Try to extend the championship window. But yeah, I think Kobe, if they'd had a Jerry West in Memphis building around him, they can get one. Sneak up and get one.
Yeah, well, no, and I think in Memphis they could have gotten one. In the fact of they could have built correctly. Like the Lakers don't have the ability to wait and build.
No, they have no patience. What in Hollywood?
Well, they're in Hollywood, and that's the thing is the Lakers can't be bad for long, so they have to keep basically leveraging their future all the time to stay relevant today. Yes, so in LA, that was the deal. Is like you could never build that team to make it a dynasty just around Kobe. You had to get we got to get Pau Gasol in here. We got to do that. But in Memphis, you could have been like, okay, let's draft a couple other guys.
Yeah, you can do what Denver just did. Yeah, you can take a little time. Everybody in Denver is patient because they're high and life is good in Colorado. It is. No, I mean, life is good in L.A., but L.A., you got to compete with Hollywood for headlines and for attention.
There's enough people in Denver that woke up this morning and were just happy to hear they had a basketball team.
Yep.
That were like, we have it. They're like, our basketball team just won the championship. It's like, we have a basketball team? Like, yeah, dude, you've been to games.
Yeah, but now they actually are the biggest story in the city, and they haven't been the biggest story in the city or in the state. I don't know if ever actually. Now they are.
Right.
Now they don't compete for headlines. Now everybody's talking about them, even the people that don't give a damn about basketball. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into speaking of basketball, we'll get back to the NBA Finals and talk about Denver winning their first title as a franchise, and also, man, their owner who is doing some boss things.
Big things.
lately.
Yeah.
All of that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn, top of the charts Tuesday. That's when Patrick takes jams that reach the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history and plays them for us on a top of the charts Tuesday. Wow. Grease?
Grease.
Fantastic.
Not Harge's favorite Grease movie.
I'm like,
but
man, this ain't my favorite Grease, man. I need Grease 2, man.
I still can't believe you admit to people openly that you prefer Grease 2 over Grease 1.
Grease 2, man.
Do you realize how crazy that sounds?
I'm a little off.
That is very off. Wow. Yeah,
favorite, man.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody with that take before.
Hey, man.
You're unique.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say.
You are unique.
Some
brother.
call it strange. I call it unique.
That's what we're gonna call it. Thanks, my man Patrick, DJing at Top of the Charts Tuesday. You can be a part of the show. Specs text line 512-337-3776. You also can use the Twitterverse. My man Harge is at Hardball Harge in the Twitterverse. Patrick Davis at It's Patrick Davis. I'm at Rod Babers in the Twitterverse. Plenty of discussion about your new NBA champions, the Denver Nuggets, winning their first NBA championship as an organization. Just really quickly before we dive deep into Game 5 and then start talking about the legacy of Jokic and really the championship window of this Denver Nuggets team right now. Let's give a little bit of props to the owner, Stan Kroenke, because Kroenke right now is on a run. He's got a bit of a run going. So he is an owner of the Rams, who won the Super Bowl recently, the Nuggets, who won the NBA title, the Colorado Avalanche,
NHL champs,
who have won the Stanley Cup, and the Colorado Mammoth NLL, which I believe is the lacrosse team, professional lacrosse. And they won a title too, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the man, by the way, he also owns the Colorado Rapids and the Arsenal FC. They haven't really won anything, but just owns those teams.
They make a lot of money, too, though.
Yeah, his overall worth of his sports franchises, the accumulated value, I believe, is somewhere around $13 billion. He also owns SoFi Stadium in L.A., too, which is going to be one of the host stadiums for the World Cup. They did have the national title game there, hosted the Super Bowl there. They're all going to have the Olympics there in 2028. Man,
they've had WWE there.
WrestleMania, you're right, has been there as well. Yeah, he's up since he basically acquired SoFi. He's up nearly $3 billion in revenue generated from events and equity in all of that stuff.
And I'm going to bring a little bit back to Jerry Jones, because don't forget, Jerry Jones was the one that kept telling them they need to put a team in L.A. And Jerry Jones got Kroenke to help build that. I mean, to build all that stuff, because they weren't looking at L.A. like that anymore.
Yeah, you know, Jerry Jones is basically the head of the Owners Association.
Yeah.
And Jerry Jones got a nose for money. Say what y'all want
does
about
he
his
ever.
football acumen and IQ, but, man, he got a nose for money.
Dollar bills, y'all.
And he has expanded the overall revenue pie for the NFL several different times. And you're right, Harsh, this is another time where he expanded that revenue model for the NFL. So just looking at it from the ownership perspective, that's a lot of straight cash homie that Stan Kroenke has invested, but that he's getting a lot of ROI return on those investments.
No doubt about it.
All right, let's get to one of his teams, the latest championship team of his, and that is the Denver Nuggets. And they left no doubt. Both of you guys predicted a gentleman's sweep, so I'll give you guys some props. Congratulations on your accurate prediction. The Denver Nuggets made it. Actually, they did make it a little bit more interesting than I thought it would be. I believe the line had it around 8.5. Them as a favorite to win Game 5. They actually had a sloppy first half, gentlemen. 10 turnovers in the first half for the Denver Nuggets. They shot horribly from three-point range. They were 1 of 15 from three-point range. By the way, that is a record low, 6.7%, the lowest three-point percentage for any half in finals history. And the Heat had a lead, a 51-44 lead at half. And it looked like, oh, man, the Heat may find a way to win this. It was a battle. It was kind of a rock fight in the third quarter. Whole damn game ended up being a rock fight. They ended up with a 71-70 lead, the Miami Heat did, going into the fourth quarter. And that's when the Denver Nuggets decided that they were going to win this thing, and they were not going to be denied their championship celebration on this floor. And that's when they really took charge of the game hard, and they outscored the Miami Heat 24-18 in the fourth quarter. Jokic had 10 points in the fourth quarter, and they really did decide to close the game out with Jokic. Jimmy Butler did his best to keep the Miami Heat in it. He scored 13 points. I believe he scored 13 straight points.
Yeah, he did.
In the fourth quarter for the Miami Heat, but nobody else scored after the 9.5-minute mark other than Jimmy Butler for Miami, and Jokic took over the game for the Denver Nuggets, and he gets the Finals MVP. They get the championship, and now you're talking about the Denver Nuggets start of that championship window. They could be on the precipice of something special.
And we talked a little bit about this yesterday before the game about Michael Malone and his coaching style, the way he challenges his team, the work that they put in, the consistency of the message that he was delivering to his team. That's what I think helped them stay focused. That's what I think helped them stay locked in. And the fact, too, that they smelt blood in the water and they started to attack them. But I also take it all the way back to what we talked about a couple weeks ago when it first started. When you watch the way that the Miami Heat had to get to the finals, that was a struggle. Every game was to the max. They were playing against the top teams in their conference. They beat the Bucks. They beat the Celtics. And then you get to this level, and it was like, this team is built a little bit different. They got a different mindset. This team is well rested because they did do the sweeps. They were able to go in there and get some games off because you decided you want to play 7 games against Boston. That's on you. And now they're in better shape than you are to traveling from the East Coast to the West. I mean, there's just so many different things that factored into it. But then again, you look at what Jimmy Butler was able to do, the underdog mentality. I want to play with these guys. I get it, Jimmy. You deserve those guys. But when your role players that you like playing with aren't playing at an above average role, and then you go against a team like the Denver Nuggets who have 2 potential superstars. One for sure, Jamal Murray Jamal Murray's putting his name in there because he's finally healthy, putting himself in that category. But then their role players played well. Look at what Aaron Gordon was able to do. Look at Bruce Brown and what he was able to do. Those are the types of players, and even Caldwell Pope, he played well. Defensively, he played well. So there's times when you start looking at the teams, and the story is great for Miami. Spoelstra's a great coach, all the great stuff that goes with it. But you still need your Robin, and I don't think he had a Robin. Yeah, I don't think Jimmy Butler, and especially we may hear that Jimmy was hurt at some point too. I still believe we may hear that Jimmy was not right after he rolled his ankle, and maybe there was something else that was going on with Jimmy because he just did not look the same.
Bam Adebayo had a good series, but you're right. He doesn't have a true Robin. That was unexpected for Bam to play that well.
Yeah, right. No, and I mean, Bam played a better series than Jimmy did.
Right, he did.
Jimmy did not have – I mean, like, he did okay, but to be a superstar of a team, you underperformed in at least 4 out of the 5 games, if not all 5.
Easy.
You underperformed.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Spoelstra is a great coach. Bam Adebayo did the best he could. Defensively, he couldn't do a bunch. I mean, and he also he fell in that point where you know, when you talk about the defense of Jokic, look at what Bam did when Jokic hit the bench. When Jokic gets into foul trouble early and hits the bench, that's when Bam Adebayo's like, just throw me the ball. He'll go dominate underneath because Aaron Gordon and Jokic both get hurt or both get in foul trouble. And so we saw, you know, you can say, well, he's not the best defender, but we saw what Bam did as soon as he was off the court. Is he was able to go in there and just score at will. But yeah, this for me was, and I could believe that there's something else going on with Jimmy Butler. I wanted to see him at least seem like he cared past game 3, and I don't know if that was that he was hurt, and so he's, you know, he was basically understood that he wasn't going to be able to be the same guy, but it just seemed as if like he knew that he wasn't going to be good enough to win it, and then didn't even really make the effort because we saw what he did at the end of that game. He came out and hit a couple big threes, was going, and then it was just forcing. Also got a terrible call. Like, they need to
reviewed
fix.
it.
They need to fix the review.
They reviewed it and still.
Yeah, they need to fix the
upheld it.
review.
That was insane. That was crazy. Yeah,
They need to fix it because these refs are out of control with their. I don't know.
it's just
no.
pride.
Yeah. I didn't really like. Give another.
We don't make bad calls.
Yeah,
we
you do.
reviewed it. We don't make
Exactly.
bad calls.
Yeah, you do.
When at the end of the year, when we reviewed all of the calls that had to be reviewed. Turns out we have a 98% hit rate. We're never wrong.
Yeah,
We
it's
reviewed
crazy.
it. We're never wrong.
They need to fix that because that was
It was
crazy.
blatant. It really was.
Yeah, because they also made a rule that you can't kick your foot out to try and get a foul, which was the only contact there was.
Right, which showed that he kicked his foot out to get the foul.
But
Yeah.
that was the one that was very annoying in the moment because you're like, if they win this game because they gave them 3 points and they win by like 2.
Conspiracy theories that are going to pop up are going to be
It's just
nuts.
so stupid. But
Yeah.
it didn't even matter. You got that call and you still weren't able to come back and win the game. It did seem it was just at the end the defense stepped up a lot. Aaron Gordon did not have a great offensive game in game 5, but his defense throughout this whole series, it's watching him play where a guy that 2 years ago people said he was a bust and couldn't play defense. Like he was never going to be a good he's athletic, but he can't play defense and he's not a great 3-point shooter. Was what his scouting report was 2 years ago.
And that's why you go with Mike Malone, the guy that is talking you into greatness.
Yeah.
That's what he was able to do,
and that's
pulling
why-
it out of him. Michael Porter Jr.
And that's why you got to give credit to the staff who they scouted and brought in.
Yeah.
A guy like Christian Brown that you bring in that you just go, this guy is winning DNA, clearly, because he's won 3 high school championships. He's won an NCAA championship, and now he's won an NBA championship.
We want winners.
That dude needs a bigger
We
trophy
want
shelf.
winners.
It needs-
You're right.
And so it's like you bring in guys like that. You bring in a guy like Bruce Brown who wants to prove it. You get a Kentavious Caldwell-Pope who's upset that he did not get the payday in L.A., and you use that anger. And then even a guy like Michael Porter Jr., where you take a chance on a guy who's got injuries, and you go, man, if he's able to stay healthy, he can see what we do. And I've heard this a lot. There's always going to be haters and trolls and everything else. The people who are getting on the Nuggets for playing a not great
Yes,
percentage of players.
They played 2 8s, a 4, and a 7 to make it. To win the
That's what
finals,
happens
to
when
win the
you
championship.
have the best record in your
Yeah,
conference.
you were the
you
number
play an
1
8
seed.
automatically, then you play the higher of the 2 seeds you could play in the second
Yep,
round. You're playing a
exactly.
4 or 5 because you're the 1 seed.
And let's not
And
forget,
then you got 2 easier ones in the second. But also, you're playing a Lakers team
Then-
with possibly one of the greatest players of all time,
Exactly.
and LeBron James.
Thank you.
You're playing like there's things.
Not only
in
that,
Katie and Devin Booker.
they were
like that said,
favored.
Yeah.
Lakers and
Yes.
the Suns were favored. Those
Yeah.
were the 2 teams
you're-
that everybody kept
you're-
saying that's who's going to be there.
People are just hating because it's not their team or they don't like. They didn't watch. If you don't like what Jokic was doing, then you probably just didn't watch a lot of it because there was a lot of it that he did that was a ton of fun to watch. Or you just don't like basketball, you like highlights.
Yep.
Yeah, and when Jokic got some highlights too.
He
but
does.
I agree.
He does,
You,
but-
you don't get the full appreciation unless you watch him in the games.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. And the reason I started off giving some props to ownership is because usually you don't see ownership patient enough to allow a formula to marinate this long. What, Mike Malone has been there how long? 8 years now? We're talking about 8 years, something
Being
like that?
patient.
Right?
Being patient.
And then, exactly, right? You just usually in the NBA there is just right now there's not a lot of coaches losing their jobs like three or 4 years
Quickly.
seems to be the lifespan of a coach at one spot in the NBA, and then they do the kind of musical chairs of coaches. But usually patience is not a virtue in the NBA. And I will admit, I did not even realize Michael Malone had
I
been
was
there
going to say,
that
make
long.
sure you say his name
Yes.
right, Doc.
So I'll give ownership some credit for that. Give Mike Malone a ton of credit. He's obviously a hell of a coach. But they were patient with this particular formula. You don't see that a lot. Also,
And I forgot that he was the coach of the Sacramento Kings before he took the job with Denver. I'm like, huh? I didn't realize he was at Sacramento.
hard to keep up, man,
Yeah.
in the NBA. But yeah, he's one of the coaches who's been around a long time, and that you don't see in the NBA. You don't see a lot of tenured coaches. The Nuggets also in this game 5, 97.9 points per 100 possessions. That was the least efficient offensive performance for a winning team in the playoffs this season. So you're talking about the best offensive team in the playoffs had the worst game offensively for any winning team in the playoffs this year. They found a way to win ugly. That was their ugliest win.
You got to.
That was arguably the ugliest win of the playoffs for any team. That was their ugliest win of the playoffs. They just found a way to get it done. They 3-point shooting was bad. Their foul, they were bad from the free throw line, bad from 3-point line. They had a lot of turnovers early on. They really, honestly, didn't have a reason to win the game, but they showed you they're gritty enough to win ugly games. And that's kind of what it showed me. It wasn't a pretty win. I mean, you had neither team get into the triple digits, but that was a hell of a way to close out because they just smelled the blood, as you said, and they just went for the throat.
Yeah.
And the Miami Heat had nothing. The only person to score down the stretch that was really putting up a fight down the stretch was Jimmy Butler. The rest of the team, like I said, didn't even score after the 9.5-minute mark. It was just him.
Yeah. And then you start watching him, too. When you're trying to just give it to one guy to score, it creates a lot of problems because it's like, get him the ball and everybody get out of the way. Well, the Denver Nuggets know that that's what y'all are doing. Duncan Robinson wasn't playing a great game either, and I thought he was going to play a little bit better. But when you look at that entire stuff, Patrick, you brought it up, Bam Adebayo, when Joker came back in, he changed his whole approach, and he wasn't attacking the rim as he once did during the game. So there's so many things that went right for Denver, but there's so many things that went wrong for Miami. And again, I think Spoelstra knew it after they lost game 3. When they got the series tied up, then all of a sudden it was like, what is about to happen? They didn't have it ready for them. And then everything else changed quickly.
Obviously, the finals MVP was, that was not any secret. It wasn't even a debate. It was unanimous finals MVP for Jokic. Everybody knew that was going to happen. He led all players in points, rebounds, and assists. First player in NBA history to do so in the playoffs. He was really a force of nature out there and was unstoppable. And he had a couple of post games that are really memorable, and they're shortened to the point. So after the game, he was on the floor. After the game, right after, they're celebrating his balloons and confetti and all this stuff everywhere. And here is his on-court post-game interview when he was asked about his accomplishments and championship and what he's going to do now. Here is Jokic.
And now you are an NBA. You are a champion, Nikola. How does that feel?
It's good. It's good. The job is done. We can go home now.
Congratulations, Mike.
Job is done. Go home now.
I went to work. Now it's time for me to go home. I'm ready to get across the water. I'm ready to go.
It was straight to the point. And okay, so yeah, Hard, you just brought up, he tried to get back to his homeland for him. And he was asked in the postgame. This is how he's actually sitting down at in the postgame with the media, and he has he has a conversation with a member of the media, and they start asking him about the postgame, like the post-championship festivities. And here is a response from Jokic.
Outstanding.
Now, and if you're looking forward to a parade coming up in Denver.
When is parade? When is parade?
Thursday.
No. I need to go home. Okay.
He's genuinely disappointed.
Like he's mad.
It comes across as dry humor. Like he's just very dry. Because Pop does that sometimes. Pop's got the dry humor working, and members of the media that know Pop, they're like, Pop's just some dry humor. And it comes across that, no, I think he's genuinely disappointed. He wants to go home. He did the job. The job was to win the title. I won the title. I showed him I'm the best. I want to go home. That's it.
Yep.
All right? I don't need to celebrate with y'all. Don't want to celebrate. And you know what? Denver Nuggets fans, the ones I talk to, got no problem with it. If he's not at the parade, none of them will be offended.
No.
They'll put up pictures of him. They'll hold pictures
they'll
of
hold
him.
a little sign of it and talk about, we wish you were here.
He'll zoom in from his pool.
Oh, yeah,
Exactly.
Right. He can zoom in. Just
On
wait
the
for
back
it.
of a horse.
Wow.
On the back of a horse with no shirt on. Looking like Prince, that album.
He gotta just be in the pool. He's like, let me go get in the pool.
Yeah.
Wow, man, Tim Duncan was he was, a meek star where, he was
humble.
He was humble.
Yeah.
He didn't really like the spotlight, didn't crave the spotlight.
Still doesn't.
It still doesn't. This is something new, though. This is a new. He's even different than Timmy. He's different than Timmy.
Yeah.
Because to me, he is, he doesn't even crave celebrating with his teammates necessarily.
Well, I think because we saw videos like of him pulling Jamal Murray into the pool and stuff like
he
that.
did have some fun.
So he had some fun. I think he hates the spotlight at all.
I think he hates
Like-
being around media people. He loves being around his boys. I think you saw his big old brothers out there picking him up and carrying them. I'm like, those are the people he wants to hang out with.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Those are the people
They
that he
gotta
really
make-
wants to be around because he knows those people. He's comfortable around them. He'll let loose around them. When he's in front of the microphone, he's like, oh, my God. Did you see the other part of his interview when they were asking him if Djokovic text him after they won the championship because they're from the same place?
Yes.
And he saw the messages. He's like, I'm going to turn my phone off. I'm going to definitely turn my phone off because he didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, Patrick has that audio, too. Here's the audio that Hard was referencing.
Congratulations. I'm going to see if he's testing me, no? I don't know. I mean, oh, mom, my fuck.
How many texts you have?
A lot. I know. I'm gonna turn off the phone.
Yeah,
I'm just going to go party, man. Leave me alone.
Yeah, he does. Listen, he's a very lovable superstar for the NBA, and he's authentic and genuine, and it's great. And I love his. I don't even know if it's a sense of humor. He's just funny,
Yeah.
and it's very a dry,
I like him a lot.
comedic timing and sense.
Yeah.
But I do hope he embraces the media as he goes on this run. Hopefully, it is a run. I do hope he embraces the media. He is the best basketball player on the planet. People who don't like basketball or don't know basketball or don't watch the NBA should know who he is.
I agree.
You know what?
And that's a shame they don't. That is the case in, this is why we talk about with Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, right? This is the Shohei Ohtani's the best player in baseball, and people should know who he is, whether you like baseball or not. Mike Trout didn't embrace media. He didn't like it, didn't like the spotlight, and we agree that not only hurt his value, but hurt the game. Because he was the best player in the game for so long, he should have been an ambassador for the game. That's just part of the burden of it. And I hope that he does embrace being in front of the media more. Whoever his people are, his publicist and his agent, he should be in more commercials, so we should know him that way too. Everybody, NBA included, agents included, him included, need to embrace him being a media darling just for a while so that he becomes a household name because he deserves to be.
He does.
Yeah, I don't know if that. I mean, I would say you should go talk to Ricky Williams, and that's another guy who did interviews like that with a face mask on, and it was a good game. And that's that. You go, I get it. It's social anxiety or whatever it is.
It's tough.
Which, when they say, when's a parade? And you're like, I don't want to. You know what I don't want? To be on a parade. If I don't like answering questions, I prefer to be away from everybody. That would be where I prefer to be.
I get it.
So I get it. But yeah, I would say try and get him, try and just make that, even if nothing else, make it so he can understand how to deal with situations better. So if he really hates it this much, I'd be like, hey, man, just don't stress out about it as much, and it'll be fine.
Totally agree. I would say, you know what? Instead of him embracing the media, let's just do let's get him in controlled environments where we can just do the advertising, the commercials, and in different,
You better do it all in one day, though, because he ain't going to come back and see you after that.
No, I agree. You're right. He may not. I'm just saying, like, maybe he doesn't. Maybe it is about anxiety, and we definitely don't want to increase his stress levels and stuff like that, right? Mental stress and mental health and all that. So, yeah, but
By the way, it is Mental Health Month for men.
There you
go.
Now. All right, that stuff's important. But I do think, man, more people need to know who the best player on the planet is in the NBA, and I don't think everybody does. Well, I think most people still tell you it's LeBron James. It's like, actually, it's not.
Right. Well, if you look at this, and to your point about more people knowing who he is, whether you watch the NBA or you're a passerby, the NBA playoffs across ABC, ESPN, and TNT average 5.47 million viewers, which making it the most watched playoff in 5 years.
That's good.
So it's new people coming to the party, so other people wanted to see it. Maybe it goes back to what you were talking about Jimmy Butler. He's intriguing. Bunch of no-name guys that are out there doing their thing. And then you have the lovable big guy that everybody at the rec thinks they are because they can kind of play like that. and now people decided to watch it. I do want to add this, too, that for the past 5 NBA seasons, we've had a different champion every year now.
Yeah, that is one thing about the Adam Silver era that is different, that you've had a lot of different champions. You've had 7, I think, in 10 years, 7 different champions.
And 5 in the last consecutive years. Denver, Golden State, Milwaukee, Lakers, and Toronto.
Yeah. And in David Stearns, I think 8. I think he had 8 in 30 years.
Yeah.
Different champions in those 30 years. So you are getting
That's
a
because
lot.
he didn't let CP3 go to L.A., dog.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's good for the NBA, though, man. New blood is good for the NBA. All right, we come back. We'll continue this conversation about Nikola Jokic and the Joker and where he is all time among the GOATs and the greats. You may be surprised where he lands on that list. All that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about one of my favorite organizations, my good friends over at Ironworkers Local Union 482. They've been helping shape this great city since 1935, and as our city continues to grow and thrive, so does Ironworkers Local Union 482. They don't go to the office, they build it. So if you're looking for an exciting new career path, you want something that will challenge you, maybe you're frustrated with your work choices, you can become a valued member of Ironworkers Local 482 and accept the challenge of becoming the best version of yourself while helping shape Austin's economic development. And right now, they're hiring over 3,000 people for a huge project right here in Central Texas. And you can become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that helps shape the future of our great city. So maximize your potential and be your best self today. Simply apply at ironworkers482.org. Just go online and apply at ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. I'm going to have the conversation here about Nikola Jokic and where he stands all time among the greats. Now, I brought some of these numbers up, but I've updated them since. But I brought some of these numbers up prior to the NBA Finals just to put Nikola Jokic's accolades and his resume into perspective and give it some context and where he stands all time. So now he's put a ring on it. Now we're having a different conversation. So Nikola Jokic in these playoffs, by the way, averaged 30 points, 13.5 rebounds, and 9.5 assists. It's just a freaky stats, man. He's got a bunch of freaky stats. One of the freakiest is he became the first player ever to lead the entire playoffs in points, rebounds, and assists in one single postseason. Yeah. Had more points, assists, and rebounds than any other player in the postseason, which shows you just how versatile he is as a big man. But I went and updated these stats just to kind of put some perspective on where he stands all time. So if you're looking at PER, career playoff PER, which is player efficiency rating, one of the probably most popular analytical stats out there for basketball, just to try to see how efficient a player is all around. Nikola Jokic right now, 29.02 player efficiency rating in the playoffs. That's number one overall. Michael Jordan is second, 28.6 career playoff PER, player efficiency rating. George Mikan is third. LeBron James is fourth. AD actually is fifth. Shaq is sixth. Hakeem Olajuwon is seventh. Giannis is eighth. Kawhi Leonard is ninth. And Tim Duncan, the big fundamental, is 10th. So rarefied air there. If you look at all-time career playoff leaders in box plus minus, now after a championship run by Nikola Jokic, he is second all-time in career playoff box plus minus at 10.42. That is behind MJ, the GOAT, Michael Jordan, at 11.4. He is tops in box plus minus in career playoff box plus minus. LeBron is third behind Jokic at 10.04. Kawhi is fourth. Giannis is fifth. Magic Johnson is sixth. There you go. That round out top 10, Larry Bird, Hakeem, Steph, Tracy McGrady cracks it too. Some of these stats are a little like, I don't know about that one. Hey, there are exceptions to every rule. If you look at his regular points per game in the playoffs, without any stipulations or criteria thrown in it, he is ninth all time, 27.4. Assists per game in the playoffs, he is 19th. 7.2, and career rebounds per game in the playoffs, he's 17th. So he's top 20 in all of those. But Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams, Sauce, Cardi B, Sauce, Megan Thee Stallion, Sauce. But if you throw in the stipulation that players must have at least 2,000 career playoff minutes, because he's got a lot of playoff minutes he's put in, among that group, he is 6th in points per game, and he is 13th in both assists and in rebounds per game. No other player in that group of 2,000 career playoff minutes are even in the top 30. Larry Bird is closest, 22nd in assists and 32nd in rebounds.
Wow.
Yeah, man, rarefied air.
He's special, man.
If you combine his points, assists, and rebounds in the playoffs, he's at 52.9 in these past playoffs here with this title run by them. That's second most in a playoff run behind Wilt Chamberlain's 59.9. He was at 52.9. Bill Simmons also keeps up with this stat too and calls it his 42 club, basically combining points per game, assists, and rebounds per game. And we're talking about 42 club in the playoffs. So all of those stats combined, those three stats. And Nikola Jokic, if you do career playoff combined points, assists, and rebounds per game, he is only behind Wilt Chamberlain, 51.2, and he is second ahead of Michael Jordan, third at 45.7. So being sandwiched in between Wilt Chamberlain and MJ
I was going to say, that ain't a bad place.
And LeBron is fourth. So your top four is Wilt, Jokic, MJ, and LeBron. And that stat about combined points, assists, and rebounds per game in the playoffs in a career. If you look at among players with at least 1,000 career playoff shot attempts, he is second in effective field goal percentage. He is third in true shooting percentage. If you look at just among that group in 2-point percentage, he's fifth. In 3-point percentage, among that group, he is second. That is probably one of the freakiest things about all of his stats is that Jokic is second in career playoff 3-point percentage among players with at least 1,000 playoff field goal attempts in the playoffs. That's crazy because Steph Curry, and by the way, he's at 41.2% 3-point percentage career in the playoffs. Steph Curry's at 39.6. Clay's at 40.5. Ray Allen's at 40.2. Reggie Miller's at 39%. Currently, right now, Jokic is a better career 3-point shooter in the playoffs than those guys. And those are some of the great 3-point shooters of all time. And if you're thinking about his clutch gene, he's got the clutch gene and more. He's made 15 of 32 shots in the playoffs in the last 3 minutes of those playoff games with the score within 3 points. That's a 47% rate. That would be fourth best among the 45 players who qualified with at least 30 such shot attempts since 1996. So whichever way you want to look at it, I mean, he could retire today, gentlemen, and you're talking about a top 20 player. Right now, we're just wondering, pretty much. You're talking about a top 20 player right now.
And the more that you watch him and the more you go through those numbers and you start to really dive into what you've seen, I still believe if they would have had Jamal Murray last year, they would have had a good opportunity of making a run at it. And if they can stay healthy, that's the other part. I know everybody wants to talk about dynasties and where do these people rank and how are you going to judge them. You got to give him his props right now. Give him his flowers while he's here. That's what we always talk about, right? You talked about it. For that guy to be able to do what he was able to do, the only person to achieve those goals of what?
He led the
600
entire
points.
playoffs,
Exactly.
in points, assists, and rebounds.
Yeah.
And if I'm Stan Kroenke and he says, I want to go home and not go to the parade, I'm giving him my private plane to go do it.
Exactly. Go ahead,
and
man.
say,
Enjoy
hey,
yourself.
man, let me tell you. The one thing I don't want is you to fall out of love with this game.
Exactly.
When you make enough money and you go, I'm good enough. 31 years old. I'm good.
Yep.
Won 2 rings or something. I won 1 ring. I'm good. 31. And you're like, I miss out on like 4 more years of this guy.
That's a good point. He has his personality that's kind of quirky where I can see something like that happening. Like, I'm down.
Yeah, like you do not. I mean, now again, everybody thought Tim Duncan was going to retire early, and that dude played forever.
That's true.
So sometimes it is.
He's pretty
you
eclectic,
don't know. But yeah, if he retired in 2 years at 30, it wouldn't surprise. I think everybody would go, yeah, he's just that guy.
Yep.
Or if he played till he was 40, everybody go, yeah, he's just that guy.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think that was right on the money. I totally agree with you. And I hope he plays. I hope he goes old school and try to play as long as he can because he's fun to watch. And I can't wait to see him stockpile more of these crazy stats. Like I said already, guys, he's statistically, looking at playoff performances, he's already in rarefied air up there with the GOATs, and he's just 28. And that championship window for the Nuggets just started. They're on the
cracked
precipice.
open.
Just cracked open.
Yep.
Now, maybe it only stays open a crack.
Yep.
Who knows?
Yep.
But
Got to pry that thing open.
They could end up prying that thing wide open, man, and we could be seeing something special. So we'll talk more about the Denver Nuggets. I'm sure they got their parade coming up later on this week. We believe Joker's going to be there, so there'll be some talk about Joker, I'm sure, in the parade. Aaron Gordon's already been walking through the streets
Man, I love
of
it.
Denver shirtless.
Yeah.
Last night he had his game shorts on, walking shirtless through the streets. He had like his phone in his hand. That was it.
He is J.R. Smith.
He is.
He's J.R.
Smith. That's exactly what he is. No fear, man of the people, just out there, just getting
The man of the people.
Oh, yeah. So we'll get into some more of the coronation, if you will, of the Denver Nuggets as the champions of the NBA. All right, we come back. We got another Off the Record on the other side right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let's tell you about our friends over at Apple Leasing, because you want friends like our friends at Apple Leasing, because they will help you get the car you want for the price you want. All right, that sounds like a bold statement there, but that's why my friends at Apple Leasing have been doing business here in Austin for almost 40 years, because they do it the right way and they take care of their customers. Now, we know that the process of getting a brand new car, although rewarding and satisfying to get that new car smell, can be a stressful one. Right? That very time-consuming, looking for the exact car for you and your family, whether it's an SUV or a sedan, trying to find the right price that's compatible with your budget, trying to find the right payment plan that fits your budget and what you're getting paid. Hey, everybody understands those struggles. So do my friends at Apple Leasing. So what you do is you give them all that information, and they will do all the hard work. All you got to do is reach out to them, 512-346-9977, or go online at appleleasing.com, and you let them do all the hard work, and all you got to do is sit back and wait for your brand new car. Somebody who knows about this process and how easy it is my man Mike Harge.
That's right. I know about that process and how easy it is because I've purchased 3 cars from them. That's right. I've been part of this Apple Leasing family for quite some time now, and it's so easy to be involved. Go to appleleasing.com. You can try to make sure that you are looking for any make or model, whether it's a truck, an SUV, or a new car. They will go out and find it for you. A lot of people are always looking for those exotic vehicles. If you're in Austin, Texas, and you got a little bit of money, I encourage you to go to Apple Leasing. Or if you're in Austin, Texas, and you don't even like the car that you're driving and you're trying to figure out, do I need a new car? Give them a call. Go over to appleleasing.com or give them a call at 512-346-9977. They will walk you through the process. It's so easy. And a lot of times people are really, really busy and you don't have time to go in. You just tell them what you want, give them the make and model, the year that you want, and they will go and find it for you. And then once it's all taken care of, if you can't make it into the office to go sign the paperwork, don't worry about it. They can use DocuSign. It's an easy and effective way. That's the one thing that a lot of people have learned through COVID is you can do things online, and this is the best way to do it. All you have to do is give our friends a call at 512-346-9977 or visit appleleasing.com today. Scott Crossett always says all he's doing is leasing cars and making friends, and now he has a friend in me for life, and now he wants you to be his friend too. Go to appleleasing.com.
All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Top of the charts Tuesday. That's my man Patrick the Idillionaire. Always coming up with the musically themed days of the week, and that's when he plays jams that reach the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. Okay, speaking of this day in history, I want to get to a little off the record. Actually, this is not about this day. It's about this week, I should say, in history. Did you guys know that Money Mayweather had an exhibition fight?
I did not know, but I did see the videos. Yeah.
Yeah, he had an exhibition fight with John Gotti III.
Mistake.
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 Why'd you say mistake?
Mistake.
Why is that
There's
a mistake?
nothing good going to come out of fighting with a Gotti.
I agree. This is Gotti of the Gottis.
Exactly.
Right? Oh, yeah.
Because he's the third.
Yeah. I mean, it's an exhibition fight, and Gotti was disqualified. The fight was stopped, and the chaos broke out. There was like a melee that happened in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
The exhibition match ended in complete chaos on Sunday night with multiple brawls breaking out after the two fighters got done with each other in the ring. The scene at Florida Live Arena, I should say, in Sunrise, Florida, was absolute mayhem after Mayweather toyed with Gotti for several rounds. The New York mob boss's grandson kicked off a melee by trying to go after the boxing legend. So he upset a former mob boss's son.
Yeah.
His grandson, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably not a wise idea.
That's not a smart move at all because it just don't stop from the ring.
So I would say this. I'll give Floyd Mayweather some props here. Money Mayweather. He's found this loophole now where he can fight, get paid, overpaid, ridiculous amounts of money for these fights, and they don't count against his record, and he only fights scrubs.
Yep.
And he just gets paid a lot of money, and they basically monitor the fights where he can't really get hurt either because they're exhibitions. So the ref can step in anytime, stop the fight, do whatever. And he's done like 4 or 5 of these now.
Yeah.
Little exhibition fights.
That nobody knows about.
But it's just for money. He just gets paid under the table to do it, and the people can bet on him and all kind of stuff like that. It's crazy.
And you know he bet on himself because that's how he always does. That's why he has those big paydays as usual.
That is a hell of a loophole he's found. He's fighting. Now, they don't count on his official record or anything, but he gets paid for them. And when he fought, who was that? He fought one of the, I forget their name.
The Paul brothers.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
The influencers. He fought one of them.
Yeah.
And it was like
it was big, and everybody was like, "Oh man, he's a really good fighter."
I think they had pay-per-view for it.
Oh, they did.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's
like
wild.
you said, he finds the loophole where it doesn't go against them. But the other part about it is the exhibition turned chaotic because of the fact that it was one of those situations where some people don't know what's real and what's fake. They are real. They fought in the back as well. There was a brawl between
his
Money
camp
Mayweather,
and
the
camp?
Gottis too.
Wow.
And they're built different. Like
Yeah,
these
they are
camps are built different.
They are built different.
And I think the sister of John Gotti, John Gotti Jr.'s daughter and John Gotti III's sister, Nicolette, is saying that they are coming for his family now. That's what I'm saying. She posted it on social media.
Well, if you post on social media you're coming for somebody, then you're probably not coming for him.
And you're also now, he needs some supervision.
See, this
you know what I'm saying?
This is how you know the Gottis, they are no longer real mobsters. Usually the rule of real mobsters back then was, don't talk about what you're doing.
Exactly.
And now they're supposed to be like, I'm coming after you.
Yeah.
We're going to come get you. It's like, I thought the mobsters, they rode in silence.
It's Exhibit A still up Instagram post.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you say, I will murder your
Still
family.
up. That's right.
There you go. Yeah, that's how far the Gottis have come from their days of the mob life.
Yeah.
There you go. Now there's another group that hates Floyd Mayweather, and apparently it's the Gottis too. So,
Ding, 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 ding.
yeah, from the mob family.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. We'll get to some more hijinks on the other side. We'll talk some Texas football, actually. Talking about Quinn Ewers, who's actually Heisman favorite. Maybe that has to do with those brand new abs that he has. We'll talk about that. More of the heartbreak from Texas baseball as well. All of that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. As you guys know, I love me some Bud Light. As a matter of fact, this weekend, got a chance to enjoy a lot of Bud Light. Did some yard work, make sure the yard was looking nice, and to reward myself, hey, I just popped open a nice ice-cold Bud Light. And when it's getting hot outside, you guys know the heat is on. The summer is officially here. There's no better way to cool off from that heat in Texas than to do it with a nice ice-cold Bud Light, folks. And that's why I love Bud Light. Always has been my favorite beer ever since my days on the 40 acres on Dirty 6th Street, even my days in the NFL, all through the NFL, still drinking Bud Light. And nowadays, hey, to decompress after a Longhorn day or to reward myself after a nice day of yard work, I'm breaking open a nice ice cold Bud Light. Still my go-to beer for Longhorn tailgates on Saturdays and NFL Sundays. So whether I'm toasting and cheersing to a brighter tomorrow or drowning my sorrows, it's never a bad time to break out the Bud Light. Bud Light isn't just for anybody, it's for everybody. So the best way to keep them good times going is to make sure you got the Bud Light flowing. Bud Light's a sure sign of a good time because it turns all the good times into great times, and all the rest of the times, they turn into the best of times. So be the life of the party and bring more Bud Light to your party. Bud Light is my choice. It is the world's favorite light beer, and Bud Light is brewed deep in the heart of Texas, and proud of it. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. It is a top of the charts Tuesday. That's when Patrick the Idealionaire takes jams that reach the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history, and he plays those jams for us so we can reminisce on some of those hits back in the day. And we appreciate him DJing a Top of the Charts Tuesday and all of our musically themed days of the week. You can hit us up on the Specs text line, 512-337-3776. You also hit us up via Twitter. Harge is at Hardball Harge in the Twitterverse. Patrick at It's Patrick Davis, and I'm at Rod Babers in the Twitterverse. Moulin Rouge?
Yep. There's a collection of artists on this song right here.
Yeah, I know Christina Aguilera was definitely one. Was it Pink or something?
Pink's on it.
Oh, Queen Latifah?
Is Maya on it?
Maya's on it.
Yeah.
Damn, how do I know this?
Did you see Maya just recently?
I used to have a crush
Who
on
you
Maya.
telling?
Oh, she was so thick.
Perfect.
She was one of those unexpectedly thick women. Like, she doesn't look like she's going to be that thick.
Yeah,
And then
top
when
is very narrow.
Yeah, and then you're like,
Yeah.
whoa,
And
that's
then,
crazy.
Hello.
Where does that them hips come
Yeah,
from?
yeah.
So, yeah, I used to love them. And who's the other one?
Lil' Kim.
Ah,
Yeah, because she's rapping. Because which Lil'
How
Kim?
did I not
The
get
Michael
that?
Jackson before or after Lil' Kim? Because
Oh,
remember she
come
did.
on.
Come on, you know she went there.
What transformation did she physically go through?
Everything.
She looks like a
shrunk.
cat now.
Yes.
She's like, I know she's trying
She
to
did
look
her
like a cat.
nose. She did
Yeah.
her butt. She did her top. She did everything you could possibly do cosmetically.
It's so weird that when women, and I'm not against getting some type of cosmetic enhancement
Absolutely.
or improvement. All for it, ladies. Do your
do
damn
your
thing.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Stay sexy. I'm all for it. But when they get obsessive and they have way too much work done to the point where it looks unattractive, it's like, I thought you were getting the work done to enhance the aesthetic appeal and look better. Now all the work makes you look like some creature.
Yep.
Like
Yeah,
you-
I think there's a line. I think there's a line that when you cross it, then it's like, oh, now I have to fix that by making this fit
Exactly.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Exactly.
like now my eyebrows are weird. So let me fix my nose, my eyebrow. All right, now we got two things. Got to fix my mouth. All right, now we got to fix this.
Exactly.
And it's just like one after. Now you're like, now this all fits, and you're like, yeah, it all looks weird now. What happened?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You could have just had one thing where have been like, oh yeah, you went too far on the nose, huh? Like yeah.
That's it. We get it. Yeah,
But
one
no,
thing. You tried to fix, that's a great point. You tried to fix every little flaw in your face.
Yeah.
And now your whole damn face looks weird. Because your face, it looks that way for a reason. All the parts are supposed to
Yeah.
work together.
Yeah, that's
Right?
not
Make
the
your face
same
stuff more
person.
congruent. I agree. I don't know how women think that's attractive. I've seen that before, though. Housewives do it all the time, too. It's crazy. Anyway, Lil' Kim used to be kind of sexy.
She did.
But now,
Well, now she
Hardy's
look
telling me
like-
no more.
Oh my gosh. Like, nah. Can't do it, Lil' Kim. Sorry, girl.
All right. There you go. Enough talk about Lil'
She
Kim.
does look like a Persian cat, though.
I
Like
was
you
like,
said.
it looks like she wanted to become more like a cat. Like she wants
Yeah.
to look more like a cat. I don't know why you would want to do that. It makes you think a cat is attractive. And not Catwoman. Not like
No.
Halle Berry as Catwoman. Now
Yes.
that was hot. That's sexy.
Agreed.
Eartha Kitt, Catwoman.
I'm with
Sexy.
you.
Michelle Pfeiffer, Catwoman. That is a fantasy we all kind of have. But not to be with a woman that looks like a cat
Yup.
or a crazy cat lady.
Crazy
Also different.
cat lady.
Talking about
That's
a woman
right.
who basically is dressed in a Catwoman costume. Yes, that is sexy. I think she might have taken that a little to the
Yeah.
extreme.
Yeah,
she went too
like
far.
when Doja Cat showed up dressed like with the face like a cat.
Oh,
Yeah.
Doja Cat. Also unexpectedly thick.
Yeah.
In a good way.
In a very good way.
Yeah. No, thick is good now. Thick used to be bad. Remember that thick was bad? Now people
I
like
never
thick.
knew it. Never knew that it was bad. Sorry.
Well,
Never
in the
knew.
pop culture world, thick wasn't good. Now everybody wants to be thick.
Yeah.
Now women are celebrating thickness. It's a good thing.
There it
I
is.
like that. You know what I mean? Celebrate your thickness out there. All right. Let's get to some. Oh, real quick before we get to this Texas football topic here, you brought up the Jeff Green nugget
Yep.
and the Ish Smith nugget from the finals that we have not yet gotten around to yet.
Yeah, so here's the OG celebration that happened last night.
OG celebration.
Jeff Green, 12 teams in 16 seasons, champion. DeAndre Jordan, 17 in 15 season, and Ish Smith, 13 teams in 13 seasons.
Wow.
They all get rings.
That's a fun loving kind
It
of
is.
heartwarming
It
story.
is.
I like that.
And don't forget, Reggie Jackson also was on that team as well, the
Yeah.
guard. he gets a ring.
And Reggie and Jeff actually played in the finals.
Yes.
Not a lot of minutes for Reggie and not a ton of minutes for Jeff, but they did play in the finals.
Yes.
DeAndre Jordan, that's that ring that he goes, my championship ring. He's like, you played for the Nuggets?
Exactly.
When did you play for the Nuggets?
That's a great point. Yeah, I would have lost that.
Was
that
this
trivia.
as a coach?
I would have lost that trivia. quiz, yeah.
Coach? Yeah.
That's a great point too, because he played on multiple teams that were supposed to be championship caliber teams, and it just never came to fruition.
One of them was the Denver, not the Denver, but the L.A. Clippers.
Exactly.
He was locked in. They locked him in the house to not let him meet with Mark
the
Cuban.
Mavs, I remember that was so embarrassing for Mark Cuban and the Mavs.
He drove around the block
like-
and dude was not even answering the phone.
It's like, why not just tell Mark Cuban? Was Mark Cuban that annoying? I just say it's all right, man. We done. We don't need to.
We don't need to do
I don't
this.
understand
Would
why
have
he
called
was-
the cops and been like, he's being held hostage in his
Yeah,
house.
why was he actively trying to avoid and ghost Mark Cuban instead of just saying, I'm not interested? Do you remember why? I don't remember
well,
why.
no, because remember they locked him,
They
Chris Paul, and then
they
went to his
locked
house
him.
and
But was he actually going to sign with the Mavs, or was
There
he
was
just
a strong. They were supposed to be making a deal that he couldn't refuse, and they didn't want him to go. So remember, 2017, it was him.
ended up no one won a ring.
Exactly, except for DeAndre Jordan.
Now,
DeAndre Jordan's the only one who gets a ring.
couple
Chris
of teams
Paul
later.
It was Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan on the squad.
That was supposed to be the squad.
He got the championship. Blake Griffin is a free agent, and Chris Paul just got waived.
Wasn't Blake Griffin with the Celtics?
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yep.
He played with the Nets and then went over to the Celtics. Calvin Booth also gets a ring
Yep.
as the general manager.
That's right.
Calvin
He's been
Booth, who
around
played
for a
like
long
a
time.
10-year career in
Yep.
the NBA, and now he's the general
GM,
manager.
And I believe the Nuggets, 46, 47 years for their first title is the longest time a team has gone for winning their first title since their inception in the league. I think they came from the ABA, so their acceptance
There it is.
into the league. So there you go. I mean, it is a great story. Denver Nuggets, they got a lot of those stories. We talked about the ownership. You talked about Michael Malone a lot hard.
Yep.
We talked about Jokic. Hell, even the Jamal Murray storyline is a great one because obviously that guy's an all NBA, all-star talent and has never gotten a chance to showcase that consistently because of the injuries. You can just kind of take his story and his coming out party in these playoffs, and that's a great story too.
Right.
So they got a lot of really good stories coming from that Denver Nuggets team, so congrats to them. All right, let's get to this Texas Longhorn football conversation. Couple of little nuggets here. The Quinn Ewers conversation. We had it yesterday. We were talking about Anwar Richardson's report that Quinn Ewers is shredded now. Got a six-pack. Harge apparently not impressed with the six-pack.
Nope.
You want to see the footwork.
I want to see him jumping rope, and I want to make sure that he can move. He's agility. I want to see his agility.
We did have the conversation yesterday, and we did come to the conclusion that all three of us would prefer a quarterback with love handles and a dad bod and a bit of a gut and awesome footwork over the quarterback with so-so average footwork and six-pack.
Yep.
Just because it's
Great for his modeling career,
Yes.
not great for his football
Well,
career. Unless he goes out there and balls out, then we can have it all.
Yeah, you can have it all, but
Yep.
if we have to choose, which right now we're in the world, we have to choose because you don't have all the time in the world. All right, you got to get better, and you only got so much time in the day. And if you have to devote your time, all right, to getting better, to certain skills and to certain parts of your body to try to perfect, or certain fundamentals and technique to try to perfect, I prefer the footwork. I think we all would. Hard just convinced me. The footwork over the six-pack.
All day.
Yeah.
Yep. Just show me that you can get your feet right, get some strong throws, be accurate. We good. If
Dad
it comes
bod.
with a six-pack or a dad bod, whichever one you want to look at. I prefer the dad bod because I'm a dad.
Because I'm a dad.
Because I'm a dad.
Yeah, you want to see that dad bod do some extraordinary
Exactly.
things. It is something beautiful about a dad bod out there doing people dirty. And some people
Exactly.
kind of like Jokic in his story. He's a little squishy for a superstar of his ilk.
But we're going to ride with
And
it.
it makes us feel at home. All right, so on three, Jesse Simonton of On Three, he listed what he believes are the top 10 Heisman contenders for this upcoming season, and he doesn't list them in a certain order, I believe. Actually, he does. I take that back. He did have a certain order. He does have 1 through 10 here, and he has Quinn Ewers. Man, this is kind of crazy. He's got him as the third on the list. I don't know if this is third ranking or just third listing. but he lists him as third. And here's what he has to say. Easily the Big 12's most likely Heisman Trophy contender, Ewers was officially anointed QB1 for the Longhorns this spring after holding off Malik Murphy and Arch Manning. Former number 1 overall recruit flashed his 5-star talent against Alabama and Oklahoma last season, but he also struggled with injuries and inconsistencies. But after a strong spring and surrounded by the best supporting cast of playmakers not at Ohio State, Ewers should have a monster sophomore season, beat Alabama in week 2, or take Texas to the Big 12 championship, and Ewers will be among the favorites to win the award come the end of the year. What say you, Hard?
It's the hype train. It's that time of year. We've been talking about all these different scenarios of what will make this Texas season a success. And it all comes back to how Quinn Ewers plays.
It does.
That's where everybody, you can talk about all the weapons that they have. We can talk about the defense that is going to be another talented defense. But if Quinn Ewers doesn't play to a very high level, it's not going to work out. It won't be a successful season. Yes, there will be some ups and downs. We all know that football goes that way. But the season and everything rest on how well this young man goes out there to play. Because if he doesn't play well, I don't think Sark has a choice but to make a move. And if you have to make a move, that means some things didn't go right, barring the injury move. So, yes, everything rests on the season rests on how well Quinn progresses, I
actually feel good, even if knock on wood, there's not going to be an injury, but if there were, or if someone had to be benched because of productivity, or lack thereof, I still feel good about what the Longhorns have in the quarterback room overall.
Yep.
So I don't think.
But the narrative will be Quinn Ewers.
Yes, of course, of course, and it should be. He's the starter, and it's his job right now
to lose.
But for some reason, he doesn't hold on to that job, or he ends up getting hurt. I do think whatever quarterback he's playing, which is going to be Malik Murphy, I don't think it should derail the season. I really do. I think you're at the point now where it should. And I'm not saying the season will be unaffected. Of course, it'll be affected. Your starting quarterback, you goes down, or you have the bench and whatever. That's a drastic change. But because of the skill level of Malik Murphy and because of the resume of Steve Sarkisian when it comes to quarterbacks, I don't expect the season to be derailed as a result of that.
Yeah, you recruited well. You recruited well to build up that repertoire, right?
Exactly. My point is
the depth.
Exactly. If first of all, if Quinn Ewers doesn't work out for whatever reason, and he has to be benched, I don't think that'll be the case. If it is, that will be a failure for Sark.
Yep.
So he'd have to make amends, if you will, for that mistake by making sure that Malik Murphy is ready to play. And I think Malik Murphy would be ready to play if that was the case, or if he had to come in because of injury too. So either way, point is, Texas has a really quality, talented depth in that quarterback room, and one regression or one misstep in the room shouldn't completely throw off the season.
Right.
So I think Texas is one of the luckier teams from that standpoint. All right, one other little nugget while we're talking about Texas football before we get to Texas baseball and the heart-wrenching, soul-crushing loss that they suffered to the Stanford Cardinal last night. I was talking to my man Jeff Howe during the Longhorn Blitz podcast. He dropped a nice little nugget of information on me about the Texas offensive line, something I did not know. It was a nice little nugget. So he went rabbit-holing and tried to find the amount of times, how many times, and by the way, he only went back to 1992 because that's as far as the records would go, how many times Texas had an offensive line that played as a cohesive unit for the entire season, all 12 or 13 games, meaning every offensive lineman started every game.
Before last year?
Yes.
I would think.
Before because last season, it happened. But
2005 VY's year?
05 was last time prior to 2022 when Texas won the national title, where they had all of the offensive linemen start every game for them.
Yeah.
Prior to that, he dropped a little nugget that 1998 was the season prior to 2005 where that had happened. And that's when Ricky gets his rushing title.
Dan Neal, baby.
Yeah, and 1996 was the season prior to 98 where you had every offensive lineman start every game for Texas, and you won the Big 12 title that year.
Wow.
And then prior to that was 1992. So It's happened, according to my man Jeff Howe, 5 times in the last 31 years. And 3 out of those 5 times, you had significant accomplishments, either winning a conference title, a national title, or a rushing title, all-time rushing title. So good things happen when all those linemen sit together. And I'll say, good things happened last year. Last year was not a disappointment. I don't know if it met the standard of Texas football, but it wasn't a disappointment.
No.
So, and for Sark right now, hey man, that's a great place to start. But next season, big expectations are sky high. As you pointed out, Harge, the hype train is full speed. Matter of fact, it is a runaway hype train. The brakes
There's no
don't
brakes.
work.
There's no brakes.
They don't work.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
There ain't no break. Ain't no brakes for this runaway hype train. The only thing that's gonna stop this runaway hype train is it is going to derail off a cliff,
Yep.
or it is going to run smack dead into a mountain, and we're all gonna die.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
Basically, we all gonna get to our destination on
What's
this hype
that-
train,
what's that one
or we're
that-
all gonna die.
What's that movie that Denzel was in? When it was
Bullet Train.
Bullet Train.
Is that it? Yeah.
That's what this is.
Bullet Train, it's the one. Bullet Train's the one with Brad Pitt, right?
Oh, you're right. That's Bullet Train.
This
What
is
it?
the one where it was like the runaway train.
It was a runaway train.
No,
Man.
it's not. But that's not the name of it. It's something else, though. You're right. It's a weird name. Is it Pelham 1 something?
Pendulum 1, 2, 3.
Unstoppable.
Pendulum, it's unstoppable.
Is that what it
Pendulum
is?
1, 2, 3
I'm
is
thinking
a
about
different one.
movies with trains and stuff.
You're thinking about the one. I think that Pendulum 1, 2, 3 is.
I don't even know if that's the name.
God.
You know what I'm talking about, though?
Yes.
We're just too old.
Yeah, we are. I'm senile forgetting stuff, man.
It is The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, and 3, but that's a different movie with Denzel Washington.
Yeah, but I'm thinking
You
of
think about the other one.
Unstoppable. I'm
That's
thinking
a
of Unstoppable.
Subway.
Subway, yes.
That's a Subway.
It's a Subway.
Train
I'm
movie
thinking
was
of
Unstoppable.
Unstoppable.
Yes.
Yes. All right, I'm glad
We got
our movie
Denzel public transit system.
Hey, but we know that Denzel can make a movie and we'll find it.
That's like 3 different movies with Denzel's like on a train or some type of
Exactly.
public transportation system. All right, we come back. We'll get into Texas baseball falling short to Stanford in the Super Regionals. We'll talk about the heartbreak of that moment last night that we all know, and we all hate to relive, but we'll do it one more time on the other side. Right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. I recently had a friend of mine ask me if I knew of anybody who was hiring, and I said, actually, I do. Good friends over at Iron Workers Local 482 are hiring 3,000 people right now in Central Texas for a huge project, and you can become a valued member of Iron Workers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that helps shape the future of our great city. We know Austin is a beautiful city, thanks in no small part to the skilled craftsmanship of Iron Workers Local 482. They've been helping shape our great city since 1935. And you see the labors of their love all over this great city in iconic, exquisite landmarks like DKR Stadium and the Pennybacker Bridge. And as our city continues to grow and thrive, so does Iron Workers Local 482. They don't go to the office, they build it. So if you're thinking about an exciting new career, you want something new, fresh, that will challenge you, you can become a valued member of Iron Workers Local 482 and accept the challenge of becoming the best version of yourself while helping shape our city's economic development. So maximize your potential and be your best self today. Simply apply at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. It is a Top of the Charts Tuesday. That's when my man Patrick, the Idillionaire, plays jams that reached the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. Oh, yeah. Lollipop, Lil Weezy. Mm-hmm.
Weezy F baby, please say the baby.
You heard Weezy say that he can't remember all the lyrics to all of his songs now? Like
that's totally not surprising to me.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you're a really prolific artist, I'm surprised a lot of prolific artists, it's hard for them to do. When you think about it, if you, the entire catalog.
Prompters. Yeah. Most of these people have teleprompters on stage now.
Oh, is that a fact? Most of them have their teleprompters on stage.
Yeah,
Keep
they're rolling.
Okay.
So you remember most of them, but then you forget some and you look down and you're like, oh. And also, if you're on tour, you're like, I remember the songs that I'm on tour with.
Yeah, you got your list, your set list or whatever.
Yeah.
But he admits, like, man, I can't remember all the lyrics to all of my songs. No, people have they've actually pranked him, and they've actually repeated lyrics of his own songs back to him, and he can't identify the lyrics. There's several little videos of him going around the Twitterverse where someone's like, they'll repeat a lyric to him, and they go, he's like, that's an amazing lyric. They're like, that's you, Wayne. He's like, that's amazing, man.
Please say the baby. Please say the baby.
Did you see he tried to reach out to John Morant, and John Morant's camp didn't reach back?
No.
Yeah. Now, granted, apparently he did it through Skip Bayless, so that may have had something to do with it. But
exactly.
but apparently he reached out to Skip Bayless to tell that he wanted to help, like, mentor John Morant, and John Morant's camp didn't get back to him.
Yeah, I mean, should Weezy be mentoring John Morant? Weezy's made some mistakes.
I mean, didn't he go to jail?
Yeah, he went for weapons charges, I believe.
Yeah, so he could be like, hey, man.
He can tell you.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I always say, like, listen, it's hard for you to be a preacher and preach to me about sin if you've never sinned before. So, hey. Maybe
and how you get it fixed.
And how you, exactly. There you go. How you reconcile and how you find Jesus.
Yeah.
And John Morant needs to find Jesus. Somebody.
Right.
All right, let's get into Texas baseball. Speaking of, we all need Jesus after watching that moment last night. That was hard to watch. Cringeworthy. The soul-crushing, gut-wrenching, heart-breaking, mind-numbing loss for Texas baseball. Just the manner in which they lost, where they lost a pop fly in the lights, in the twilight of the California sky. And by the time they saw it, it was too late, Harge.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where, baseball is a humbling game. No matter what you think is going in your favor, it can be snatched from you quickly. And that's exactly what we had the opportunity to see. The Texas baseball team was in a battle. They came back from a 3-run deficit twice to get it to 6-6, headed into the bottom of the ninth, and all of a sudden you get 2 outs, runner on first and second, pop up, game over. You think it's over, and not game over, but you get an opportunity to go to extra innings, and you get a chance to. The momentum is on your side, and then reality hits you in the face where the ball just kind of falls into that area. Been in that situation multiple times on the defensive side as far as an outfielder and as an infielder. And at that time of night, it's one of those things where you start to really have to focus on every single pitch. You can't take your eyes off of what's going on, because as soon as it gets above the lights, it has a chance of getting away from you, and that's exactly where we saw. But you can't take anything away from the way that this team battled. We saw them fight for every inch this entire season. Dylan Campbell playing the game that he was able to play, being able to run balls down, make good, strong throws, just making plays, coming up with the big clutch hit. I mean, there were so many things that happened throughout this super regional that you're sitting there saying, man, was it not meant to be? And it could have started on Saturday where the right fielder dropped the ball and Texas rallies to come back to win. And that game could have been over too. And then the night before, you had a tough battle. And then last night's game where, as I said, you battled back from 3 down twice to be able to get it to the ninth inning, and then to lose it in that fashion. It's just like, man.
Yeah.
It is. Words could not describe how emotionally empty I was at that point for those guys, because you know it. I mean, you've been out there, Rod. You know what it's about when you're doing everything, and look at Lucas Gordon coming out of the bullpen, getting a pop-up, walking off thinking,
he was pointing like, I'm done. I got it.
I got him, guys. I got him. Let's go, guys. Come on, let's get these bats and ready to go. And then the head coach, David Esker, for Stanford said he grabbed his clipboard and was getting ready to write down the top of the 10th inning because he thought they were going, and then he looks up and sees that all of the players did not see the ball, and boom, that's how the game ends. That's the sad part right there.
It is. It is. Like I said, it's easier to process and digest a loss if it feels like they earned it.
Walk off
or they
home
actually beat you.
or
Yes,
something like that.
They made a play.
Yes.
They went out there. They were better in that moment. Hey, we're all competitors. We understand. Sometimes it's just the way. That's how baseball go.
Yep.
In that situation, and that is how baseball go.
That is how baseball
In
go.
that situation, it just doesn't feel like Stanford earned it. And because of how unique that situation is of losing a ball in the light, you talk about it, even though, guys who play in the big leagues like yourself, it happens. If you play as long as you did, it happens to you. Man, for it to happen in that particular moment with the 2 outs, game on the line, ends up being a walk-off winner.
Yep.
It almost feels like if Texas would have messed up too, right? They had a bobbled something or dropped that pop fly of some sort, then Texas would have lost the game. It doesn't feel like Stanford earned it. It doesn't feel like Texas really lost it. It felt like the baseball gods decided.
It's like, you got to go home, man.
Yeah,
sorry, guys, this is it for you.
It is. It's cringeworthy to think about, but they really did. They had a great season. It's hard to say that in retrospect because of the way it ended. But it was a great season for those guys.
It definitely was because of the unexpectedness, right? Yeah. I've heard I heard Craig Way talk about this the other day. Talk about if I'd have told you, if people would have came to you and said, "Hey, all the stuff that happens, don't even worry about it because you got one game that you're going to have to win in the Super Regional to go to the College World Series," how many people would have taken it? I believe everyone.
Yep.
Because nobody saw this team getting to this point. And unless you watch the game every single week, you initially are looking at this team saying, nah, they don't have enough. They don't have enough. And then all of a sudden we're like, we're right here.
Yeah.
We're right here.
They're right where they want to be.
Yep.
And like you said, they battled back.
They battled
back to earn an opportunity.
Yes.
To win that game.
Yes.
And it felt like they were right on the cusp of it. And it happened.
It was right there.
The ball got lost in lights. As Dylan Campbell said, he said he never saw it off the bat. Never saw it.
Never.
And that makes sense when you watch him in the outfield. He, the whole time, has his arms out.
Yep.
Like wishful thinking that I'm going to find it.
Yep.
But you can tell by the posture of his arms, he can't identify it. He has no idea where it is.
That's the sad part.
And based on like the way Eric Kennedy was looking too, he couldn't
had
see it
no
either.
clue. I don't even think he moved.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? That's why I'm like,
he didn't.
Did he move?
I think Dylan Campbell was kind of like inching up. He was like moving up, looking up, but you could tell they never had any sight of it. And
sucks, man.
Yeah. By the time they all found it was way too late.
Yeah.
So I feel bad for him. Like I said, ending in that way, it's hard to digest it because it just feels like you'd rather have Stanford earn it and take it away from you.
Yeah. Like that ball that they thought they hit out of the park. I wish if it would, you wanted to lose. Hit it out of the park.
Hit it out of the park and be like, oh, there you go, man.
Yeah.
They earned
exactly.
it. They hit it out of the park. They were clutch when they needed most.
Yeah.
It was just, in Texas, obviously, not making the play, that's ultimately on Texas, but I've heard from enough big leaguers, guys who have played at the highest levels like yourself and Greg Swindell and analysts and people who've watched baseball, college or pro, and say, yeah, that happens.
It does.
And when it happens, there's not a lot in your control. Once you've lost it in the lights or in the twilight, if you will, it's almost impossible to re-identify it and track it.
Yep.
Like that takes like elite, your eye skill and talent.
You got to be so dialed in that you can see through the ball.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
You got superhuman abilities.
I was sitting there thinking too. I was like, what if they would have wore those reflective blue blockers?
Oh, the blue blockers.
You know what I'm saying? Where they
like on the infomercial?
The polarized, the polarized glasses at that time. I wonder if they would have been able to see through that too.
But you pointed out, though, that Stanford, one of the things that makes their home field advantage so unique is that they don't really have really high powerful lighting.
Not
it's
at
not,
all.
It's not exactly right. They don't. It's a little lower.
It's not the bright. Yes, it's not the brightest form of lighting that you could possibly have, nor is the height of the lights enough to keep the ball staying within those light frames. Because once it goes above it,
you lost it.
You lost it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got no way identified. If the lights are placed a little bit higher,
then you can get more
you'll
room
be able
to be able to
track
see
it
Yes,
initially.
exactly right.
And that's the problem. If you don't track it initially, you're done.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, that's you said that's rare for a big-time college sports athletic department, too, like Stanford. So I'm not going to say they're doing it on purpose, but maybe they don't play a lot of night games.
Yeah, they're probably
so there's some urgency to fix it. Like we play night games every now and then, and when they do play night games, it's advantageous to them. Because
they know.
They know.
They know.
They know. No, track it from the bat. Now you better track it from the bat.
Don't ever take your eye off of it.
In Texas, you take your eye off it for a split second, and that's exactly what happened. They end up losing it. So disappointing end to the season, but Texas baseball got nothing to be ashamed about, making it to the Super Regional. Stanford, the only team that's now coming back from last year.
Exactly.
Back to the World Series.
They were the only one returning, and that's why that game was going to be either Texas or Stanford. Were going to be the only teams coming back to the College World Series, and Stanford is the one that's going.
Stanford, basically the fourth Pac-12 team to reach the men's College World Series in 3 consecutive tournaments. First time since 05-07. I think that Oregon State did it, I believe, at the time. Also, shout out to Dylan Campbell. No, that was tough dealing with losing the pop fly in the lights or in the twilight. He did get a shout out from Bo Jackson, though.
He did.
Yes,
he did.
From one of the all-time greats in sports history, from Bo Jackson via Twitter, who saw his play from right field, the throw that he made to get the runner out, and he basically sent him a Twitter shout-out, which I don't know if there's a consolation prize that would make these guys feel good about losing in the Super Regionals, but Bo Jackson shout-out via Twitter is a damn good one. All right, we come back. We'll wrap it up, put it in the oven, let you know what's on tap right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Getting ready to wrap it up and put it in the oven. Before we do, we'll let you know what's on tap. If you missed any part of any of the shows, please go to hornfm.com. You can catch up with them on the podcast page. All right, gentlemen, what's on tap? No, man, no basketball for Patrick, so I know he's sad right now. What's on tap for you, Arch?
I'm going to have to go and look at what I have on my DVR.
Your cue to watch?
To see what's on there. But I'm a big fan of Dark Side of the Ring, and another episode comes on tonight. So I've been watching Dark Side of the Ring a lot. I'm intrigued by the life of a professional wrestler.
Yeah, you know what? It is. They
you know
are
what I'm saying?
yeah,
it's an intriguing
it's
lifestyle.
a mix of tragedy, too.
Yeah.
A lot of tragedy.
They're carnies, man.
Yeah.
It's insane to see these super successful carnies.
That's a great way of putting it. What's on tap for you now, Patrick?
Who knows? I'm getting ready for vacation next week. Let's put it that way.
No, we got Soccer Matters tonight, too, by the way.
We got a double version of Soccer Matters here? Are we getting it up?
No,
I
Soccer
think
Matters
it's-
tonight at 7. He's also on another station in Houston, but he's on tonight.
Okay, there you go. Let's make sure. Soccer Matters coming up next.
What you got going on?
I'm going to check out some trash TV. I've been diving into the trash TV lately, so I'll go deep down the rabbit hole of some trash reality TV. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll talk about it right here on Ball Don't Lie. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves. More importantly, take care of each other. Peace.